Chapter 1376. When Demon Commander Wu Shan brought Ji Tianxing and the rest to the middle of the wilderness, Ji Tianxing saw the scene clearly. A gigantic altar with a radius of 5 kilometers was built in the middle of the dark brown wilderness. The base of the altar was made of dark gold and black bricks. Tens of thousands of blood essence stones and all sorts of gems were embedded in it. The altar formation was in operation and shone with a layer of dark red light that enveloped the entire altar. The altar was in the shape of a pyramid and there were 999 steps from the bottom to the top of the altar. Clearly, there was a deeper meaning behind such an arrangement and layout, as if it was accumulating some sort of power. At the top of the altar was a circular blood pool with a radius of 1,000 meters. The gigantic blood pool was filled with dark red blood. It was sticky and gave off a pungent smell of blood. 4 soul-tempering fiend experts at the soul-tempering realm sat around the blood pool and were focused on channeling their arts. They were using some sort of evil secret technique to inject a massive amount of power into the blood pool. The dark red blood seemed to be boiling as it churned violently and released wisps of blood chi. Apart from the 4 soul-tempering fiend marshals, there were 2 gigantic beasts that looked like devils and were 100 feet tall. They guarded the north and south ends of the blood pool respectively. The bodies of the 2 gigantic beasts were formed from bloodlight and looked both real and illusory. They had 4 arms, 4 legs and 2 pairs of wide wings. Their faces were menacing and they exuded an extremely powerful aura. Ji Tianxing guessed their identities the moment he saw them. Blood God's sons. Furthermore, they were the strongest Blood God's sons. Their strength had reached the 2nd firmament essence spirit realm and they were conferred the title of supremacy by the Fiend Emperor. However, Ji Tianxing's gaze only lingered on the 2 supremacies for a moment before he looked at the blood pool. A dark red ball of light floated above the blood pool. A figure that was 30 feet tall floated in the ball of light. He was extremely majestic, but he did not move at all. Without a doubt, the figure that was wrapped in purple robes was the most honorable person present. 2 supremacies and 4 fiend marshals were guarding him and 100,000 fiend soldiers were kneeling before him. The entire sacrificial altar and blood pool existed for him. He was extremely mysterious, noble, and powerful, and his body contained a terrifying force that could destroy the world. 2 essence soul realm supremacies had extremely powerful auras. However, compared to the purple-robed figure, they were insignificant and not worth mentioning. Ji Tianxing's pupils constricted as he thought to himself, could it be the ancient demon emperor? Is he holding a sacrificial ceremony to increase his power through some evil secret technique? But when he thought about it again, he felt that something was not quite right. He stared at the purple-robed figure in the ball of light and saw some clues. That figure was not the ancient Diawolo demon emperor, but a physical body that was half real and half fake. Through the cuffs, collars, and seams of the purple robe, he could see some blurry flesh, pale golden bones, and many pale golden meridians. A ball of dark red blood, faintly glowing with gold, wrapped around this tall body and was flowing slowly. The dark red blood chi in the blood pool continued to gather in the purple robe, as if it was condensing a body of flesh and blood. Clearly, that was a body that had yet to take shape. Ji Tianxing was stunned for a moment. Then, he thought of something and a strange look flashed across his eyes. I get it now. That's the divine body that the Fiend Emperor created for the ancestor Fiend God. Those golden bones are Shui Ruoyu's divine bones. Those pale golden meridians are Emperor Yi's divine tendons. That ball of golden blood is Xiao Wentian's divine blood. After the Fiend Emperor obtained those 3 divine items, he built the altar and blood pool and held a grand sacrificial ceremony to condense a physical body for the ancestor Fiend God. He instantly understood the purple-robed figure's identity. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, intense hatred surged in his heart. Although he really wanted to unleash his most ferocious killing intent and destroy that divine body that had yet to take shape and the entire altar on the spot, he did not dare to do so. His rationality allowed him to remain calm and suppress his murderous intent. This was the fiend race's main camp, the most solemn and mysterious area with the strictest defenses. Moreover, there were 4 demon commanders and 2 primordial soul supremacies guarding the divine body on both sides of the blood pool. Once he attacked, he would be surrounded by the 6 experts before he could even touch the divine body. At that time, regardless of whether he could destroy the divine body or not, he would definitely die. There was no way he could leave this place alive. Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing could only remain calm and continue to observe the situation. Although the ancestor fiend god's divine body is about to be condensed successfully, I must remain calm and not act rashly. As long as the fiend emperor does not obtain the mansion master's divine heart, that divine body will not be complete. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, he lowered his head with an indifferent expression and followed Demon Commander Wu Shan and the others up the altar and toward the blood pool at the top. When they reached the top of the altar, they stopped at the edge of the blood pool. Demon Commander Wu Shan knelt respectfully toward the divine body above the blood pool and kowtowed with a devout expression. The demon kings did the same. They all knelt and kowtowed, chanting ancient fiend incantations. Ji Tianxing was stunned for a moment. Out of instinct, he did not want to kowtow. The 2 venerables guarding the 2 ends of the blood pool immediately looked at him with cold eyes, revealing anger and murderous intent. Without a doubt, that divine body represented the ancestor fiend god that was about to awaken. Anyone who dared to disrespect the ancestor fiend god would be mercilessly killed by the 2 venerables. The 2 venerables stared intently at Ji Tianxing. Their dark red eyes revealed a murderous glint. They were about to kill him in the next moment. Fortunately, Ji Tianxing reacted instantly. He immediately kowtowed and imitated Demon Commander Wu Shan's actions. He muttered an incantation and prayed with a devout expression. Seeing this, the anger and murderous intent in the 2 venerables' eyes slowly dissipated. However, they continued to stare at Ji Tianxing. Their eyes were cold and sharp, as if they wanted to see through him. Ji Tianxing's heart was in his throat. He hurriedly tried his best to conceal the aura of his godly soul, not daring to reveal any flaws. After 100 breaths, everyone finished kowtowing. Demon Commander Wu Shan signaled with his eyes for them to perform the sacrifice. The demon kings hurriedly used their powers to force out a ball of heart's blood. It was enveloped in dark red light and flew into the blood pool. The ball of heart's blood contained the demon king's profound powers and essence. When it landed in the blood pool, it assimilated with the blood in the pool. Ji Tianxing was already targeted by the 2 venerables. He was in a very dangerous situation. In order not to arouse suspicion, he hurriedly used his powers to force out a ball of heart's blood and injected it into the blood pool. Of course, this ball of heart's blood had nothing to do with him. It was the essence blood of the demon king that he had taken over. After the sacrifice, the demon kings were dispirited. They appeared very tired and weak. Ji Tianxing could only pretend to be tired and lowered his head weakly. Chapter 1377. After the sacrifice, Demon Commander Wu Shan led Ji Tianxing and the others away from the altar. They passed through the wasteland where the demon soldiers were gathered and hurried back to the entrance they had come from. However, at the entrance, 2 demon race elites were rushing over. Seeing Demon Commander Wu Shan, the 2 elites hurriedly came forward and bowed respectfully. Lord Demon Commander, His Majesty the Demon King has summoned you to discuss important military matters. A strange look flashed across Ji Tianxing's eyes when he heard this news. He thought to himself, the Demon King has indeed come to Heaven Dragon Pass. Our speculation was correct. Demon Commander Wu Shan looked at the 2 demon elites who had delivered the message and nodded. Ben Shuai will meet His Majesty the Demon King in a moment. After the 2 demon elites conveyed the order, they turned around and left, their figures disappearing into the dark passage. Demon Commander Wu Shan turned to look at Ji Tianxing and the others. Pointing at 4 demon kings, he ordered, "You may leave now. Hurry back to your stations and strengthen the defenses and patrols." The 4 demon kings cupped their hands in acknowledgement and quickly left. Only Ji Tianxing and another demon king were left by Demon Commander Wu Shan's side. "Let's go," Demon Commander Wu Shan ordered in a low voice. He led Ji Tianxing and the other demon king into the dark tunnel and hurried toward a demon cave as fast as the wind. The 3 traversed through the crisscrossing tunnels. After 100 breaths' time, they entered a huge underground city. This underground city had a radius of dozens of miles. It was the core area of the demon camp. Dozens of black palaces had been built in the dark underground city. Many huge caves had been excavated. Demon Commander Wu Shan led Ji Tianxing and the other Demon King to a solemn black palace that occupied an area of thousands of feet. They stopped outside. 36 Sky Origin Realm experts stood outside the wide palace gates. They were divided into 2 groups and guarded the 2 sides of the gate. A huge oval mark was carved into the black wall directly above the gate. The mark was mysterious and complicated. It was engraved with demon words and symbols, as well as images of ghosts and monsters and asuras. Ji Tianxing had been to the demon sacred mountain and seen the Heavenly Devil Palace from afar. He knew that the Heavenly Devil Palace's main gate had a similar mark. That meant that the Devil Emperor had arrived in person, and was incomparably honorable. Demon Commander Wu Shan showed his identity token to the guards. After receiving permission, he led Ji Tianxing and Li Wuyo through the palace gates and into the dark palace. The corridors, passages, and walls of the palace were inlaid with gemstone lamps, emitting a dark red brilliance. The entire palace was enveloped in blood-red light. It was filled with a dense demonic aura and an ice-cold aura of death. Anyone who entered this palace would feel uneasy and would lower their head in awe and fear. Demon Marshal Wu Shan passed through several corridors and passageways before arriving at the door of a secret room. The 50 feet tall black stone door was tightly shut. 2 vivid and lifelike images of demons were carved on the door, as if they were about to break out of the wall and devour people. "You two wait here. Don't act rashly." Demon Commander Wu Shan looked at Ji Tianxing and Mo Wuji and gave the order with a stern expression. With that, he pressed his palms against the demon images on the stone door and activated the array on the stone door. After his identity was verified by the array, the stone door slowly opened a crack. Swoosh! Demon Commander Wu Shan turned into a black fog and passed through the crack in the stone door, entering the dark secret room. Ji Tianxing and the other Demon King stood quietly on both sides of the stone door, not daring to make any noise. Ji Tianxing could not see what was going on in the secret room. But he knew very well that the ancient Fiend Emperor was in the secret room, discussing important military matters with Demon Commander Wu Shan. He could sense that the Fiend Emperor's powerful and cold aura was very low-key and reserved. It would only ripple every once in a while. The Fiend Emperor is indeed here. Otherwise, he would not have built the altar here to rebuild the ancestor Fiend God's divine body. However, the Fiend Emperor must have used some kind of Dharma treasure to conceal his aura. It's no wonder why the God Monarchs, and the others were unable to find him despite using all kinds of secret arts. On the surface, Ji Tianxing's expression did not change, but his mind was filled with all sorts of thoughts. Although I have completed the mission that the Emperor gave me and investigated the sacrificial ceremony, I managed to sneak into the Fiend Emperor's camp. But it wasn't easy for me to sneak into the demon camp. If I were to leave just like that, it would be a pity. No, I have to think of a way to get more information. He made up his mind to find a way to get more information, and racked his brains to think of a way. However, the Fiend Emperor was in the secret room, and he could not act rashly. Otherwise, he would be in danger of exposing his identity. Given the Fiend Emperor's powerful abilities, he would definitely be able to see through his disguise once he met him or came into close contact with him. After pondering for a while, an idea suddenly flashed through his mind, and he suddenly had an idea. That's right. When I was cultivating in seclusion in the Imperial Palace, the Palace Lord gave me a batch of cultivation resources. Those were the resources that the Palace Lord had accumulated over thousands of years. Apart from large amounts of spirit stones and pills, there were also more than 20 rare treasures and talismans. I vaguely remember that there was a Truth Listener talisman among those talismans. It had a very miraculous effect. That talisman was divided into a pair of mother and child talismans. It could monitor movements thousands of miles away. It was very well hidden and would not be discovered. Recalling this matter, Ji Tianxing had an idea. He glanced at the Fiend King by the stone door and saw that the Fiend King was standing motionlessly with his head lowered in a daze. It was obvious that the Fiend King was filled with fear and reverence for the Fiend Emperor. He did not dare look around or make a sound. Thus, Ji Tianxing silently took out a truth listener talisman and stuck it on the dark brown wall of the secret room. This dark gold talisman was as long as a chopstick and as wide as a palm. It was made of a special material and was engraved with mysterious and strange patterns and symbols. When the talisman touched the wall of the secret room, it quietly burrowed into the wall and quickly dissolved. In the blink of an eye, the truth listener talisman had disappeared. The talisman released an invisible force that slowly spread through the walls of the secret room. It did not cause any disturbances. It was simply undetectable. After placing the talisman, Ji Tianxing saw that there were no abnormalities in the surroundings and heaved a sigh of relief. He maintained a silent and respectful posture and stood outside the secret room, waiting patiently. After about 100 breaths, the secret room's stone door slowly opened and Demon Commander Wu Shan walked out. "Let's go," Demon Commander Wu Shan ordered expressionlessly. He quickly led Ji Tianxing and the Fiend King out of the palace. The three of them traversed the complicated underground tunnels for a while before stopping at a fork in the road. Demon Commander Wu Shan had to carry out the Fiend Emperor's orders. He turned and left, disappearing into the darkness. Ji Tianxing did not waste any time. He quickly returned to the surface and hurried to the edge of the demon camp. Chapter 1378. Late at night, in the human camp. The commander's palace in the depths of the camp was brightly lit. It was filled with a solemn and tense atmosphere. In the meeting hall, the emperor, who wore a purple dragon and phoenix robe, sat on the main seat. He was resting with his eyes closed. The imperial tutor held a horsetail whisk and stood to the side calmly. His deep eyes revealed that he was thinking about something. In the spacious and bright hall, the commanders stood on both sides. Everyone had anxious and worried expressions as they whispered to each other. The divine general of the northern frontier frowned and said angrily, "It's late at night again. Just now, I used a spell to investigate. The sounds of demons and monsters came from the demon camp again. They're confusing people." Xiao Han stroked his beard and nodded solemnly. "I wonder what the demons are doing. What are they plotting?" Yun Zhongqi's expression and eyes were filled with worry. He said in a low voice, "Tianxing has already been gone for a few hours. The strange cries of the demons have sounded again. I wonder if his operation went smoothly. Did he find out anything?" The other divine generals and commanders all nodded. Their voices were filled with worry. "That's right. The Devil Race's camp is so dangerous. Nothing must happen to Ji Tianxing. It'll be fine if he can find out anything. I'm just afraid that he'll be exposed before he can investigate. If anything happens to Ji Tianxing, we'll lose a commander. We'll lose a top expert. This price is too great." Great God Master He Yu, who had been silent, saw everyone's pessimistic expressions. He said firmly and sternly, "I believe in Tianxing's strength and methods. He'll be fine." The divine generals and commanders all glanced at him and fell silent. They stopped discussing this matter. The hall quieted down as everyone restrained the anxiousness and worry in their hearts and waited silently. Time passed silently. Soon, an hour had passed. At this moment, the guard at the entrance of the hall suddenly reported loudly, reporting to the emperor, "The Tianchen region Lord Ji Tianxing requests an audience." Hearing this voice, the commanders were all shocked. They all turned to look at the entrance of the hall. The emperor, who had been resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. He looked at the entrance with bright eyes and said in a low voice, "Summon him." A moment later, a handsome and valiant black-robed figure walked out of the darkness outside the door and stepped into the bright hall. Everyone's gazes gathered on him. They looked at him with concern. Seeing that there were no injuries on his body and his expression was calm, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. However, the two old marshals and the divine generals frowned. Did the operation. This fellow wouldn't have returned empty-handed, right? If he fails in his mission, could it be that the emperor has no choice but to personally investigate? Just as everyone was pondering, Ji Tianxing walked to the center of the hall and stood there. He bowed to the emperor and said, "Greetings, Your Highness." The emperor nodded and raised his hand, indicating that he could dispense with the formalities. He quickly asked, "Tianxing, what was the result of the operation?" Did you get any information? Ji Tianxing nodded with a smile. Emperor, fortunately, I did not disappoint. I have investigated the matter of Mo Yin. The emperor raised an eyebrow and a gratified smile appeared on his dignified face. Very good. This emperor knew that you would not disappoint us. Since you've done your research, then report it quickly. Ji Tianxing went straight to the point. The demonic emperor secretly built an altar and blood pool in the depths of the demonic camp. Every night, he would hold a sacrifice. He explained the situation of the sacrificial altar and the sacrificial ceremony in detail. The emperor, the emperor's preceptor, and the other commanders were all listening with rapt attention. The expressions on their faces were constantly changing. After he finished reporting the situation, everyone's expression became solemn and serious, and they began to whisper to each other again. I see. No wonder Mo Yin is heard every night. I didn't expect it to be the prayers of 100,000 demonic soldiers. That wretched ancient demonic emperor, he actually used an evil secret art to forge the primogenitor demon god's body. A year ago, Tianxing warned the emperor and imperial tutor that the demonic emperor was carrying out a shocking plan to revive the primogenitor demon god. When I first heard this news, I thought it was inconceivable. How could a fallen demon god survive until now? Now it seems that Tianxing's deduction was correct. The primogenitor demon god is really going to revive. The primogenitor demon god's body is more than half complete. Doesn't this mean that the demon god will soon be reborn? Following the discussions of the crowd, a heavy and oppressive atmosphere pervaded the hall. Master He, you didn't participate in the discussion. He frowned and pondered over Ji Tianxing's words. Suddenly, he asked, Tianxing, you said that the altar and blood pool were built by the demonic emperor. In that case, are you sure that the demonic emperor is in the demonic camp? Hearing these two sentences, everyone immediately quieted down and turned their heads to look at Ji Tianxing. Even the emperor and imperial tutor stared at Ji Tianxing, waiting for his answer. Ji Tianxing nodded solemnly and said, that's right. The ancient demonic emperor is indeed in the demonic camp. He just used some secret art or treasure to conceal his aura. After I followed Demon Commander Wu Shan to participate in the ceremony, Demon Commander Wu Shan was summoned by the demonic emperor to discuss military matters in the demon palace. I was guarding outside the secret chamber, and the demonic emperor was in the secret chamber. I could clearly sense his aura. It can't be fake. Hearing this news, all the commanders' hearts sank and their expressions turned ugly. Previously, everyone only suspected that the demonic emperor had come to the Heaven Dragon Pass. Now that this news was confirmed, everyone felt as if a huge rock was pressing down on their hearts. It was very heavy and stifling. Ji Tianxing took out a dark golden talisman from his interspatial ring and continued, at that time, the demonic emperor was in the secret chamber. I didn't dare to act rashly lest I expose my whereabouts. However, I made use of this truth listener talisman to do something in the secret chamber and buried a mother talisman. This talisman in my hand is a child talisman. It can monitor the movements in the demon palace and the secret chamber from 1,000 miles away. Everyone's eyes immediately gathered on the dark golden talisman. They were all looking forward to it. The emperor's eyes also shone brightly. He hurriedly ordered, Tianxing, quickly use the talisman to monitor the movements in the demon palace. See what the demonic emperor is up to. Ji Tianxing nodded and channeled his majestic magic power into the truth listener talisman to activate it. Swoosh! The dark golden talisman lit up with a dazzling golden light and burned out in an instant. It turned into a fist-sized ball of golden light that floated in the hall. Chapter 1379. I've gathered all of you here tonight to announce an important matter. The voice from the golden ball of light clearly belonged to the ancient demon emperor. The voice was deep and majestic, as cold as ice, and carried a chill of death. All the commanders in the conference hall listened quietly, their expressions grave and solemn. Even though the demon emperor was speaking the demon language, the demon commanders might not be able to understand him. However, Ji Tianxing was quite proficient in the demon language, so he took the initiative to translate for everyone. The truth listener divine talisman is monitoring that secret room. The Demon Emperor has gathered a few demon commanders and venerables to announce an important matter. The Demon Emperor's voice sounded again. Our army has been at the foot of the Tianlong mountain pass, and has been confronting the human race for half a month. During this period, our soldiers have attacked several times and sacrificed nearly 1 million warriors, but we still couldn't break through. The ancient divine array covering the Heaven Dragon Pass can't be broken in a short time. It's obviously unrealistic for us to break through the Heaven Dragon Pass and march into the Central Plains. It will definitely take a long time. Therefore, I've decided to attack Dongyang Valley instead. Dongyang Valley will be the breakthrough point. As the Demon Emperor's voice fell, the golden ball of light was silent for a long time before another voice sounded. This voice was a bit special. It was harsh and cold, like the sound of metal striking together, without the slightest emotion. Your Majesty, Dongyang Valley is 100,000 miles away from the Heaven Dragon Pass. It's one of the few dangerous passes in the North Pacifying mountain range. Dongyang Valley's defense isn't as strong as the Heaven Dragon Pass, but it's also a place that's easy to defend and hard to attack. Our army has been fighting for more than a year after leaving the northern desert, and we're already tired. If we travel a long way to Dongyang Valley, not only will we consume a lot of resources and soldiers, but we'll also be delayed for at least 10 days. Even if we attack Dongyang Valley instead, the humans will definitely send reinforcements once they find out where we're going. Our chances of winning aren't high. After Ji Tianxing translated these words for everyone, he added an explanation. This is the voice of Demon Commander Ming Yi. He's highly regarded by the Demon Emperor and has a very high status. Then, several more voices came from the Golden Ball of Light. Your Majesty, we've already established a camp here for the army to stay and rest for a long time. We have plenty of time to confront human beings. Your Majesty, please reconsider. As long as we continue to attack Heaven Long Pass, we will soon wear down the humankind, and within a month at most, we will be able to kill our way into Zhongju. Your Majesty, the ancient divine formation of Tianlong Pass can't be activated for a long time. I estimate that it won't be able to hold on for too long. At most, it will collapse by itself within a month. Those were the voices of the demon marshals, and they were all trying to persuade the ancient fiend emperor. Among those voices, there were also two strange and ancient voices. Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment, then determined that it should be the voices of the two blood god venerables. After a while, the demon commanders and venerables quieted down. Only then did the demon emperor speak in a dignified and unquestionable tone. Everyone, there's no need to say anything more. This emperor has already made his decision. All you need to do is follow my orders. This emperor's plans and objectives are not something that you can guess. Demon Commander Dark Knight, Demon Commander Broken Soul, and Demon Commander Wu Shan, the three of you will lead 20 million troops and defend Heaven Long Pass. This emperor will personally lead the 10 million troops and secretly attack Dongyang Valley. We will break through Dongyang Valley at lightning speed. While this emperor is leading the troops, the three of you will take charge of the overall situation. Take turns to send troops to attack Heaven Long Pass and attract the attention of the humankind so that they won't have time to care about Dongyang Valley. Hearing the Demon Emperor's orders, Demon Commander Dark Knight, Demon Commander Broken Soul, and Demon Commander Wu Shan all said in unison. Then, the Demon Emperor ordered in a dignified tone, Venerable Blood Killer and Venerable Demon Blood, the two of you will continue to guard the ancestor altar. No matter what, you must ensure that the sacrificial ceremony is carried out normally. The Great Ancestor Sacrifice is the most sacred and solemn event of our race. It concerns the future of our race, and we must not fail. Venerable Blood Tyrant and Venerable Blood Killer, the two of you will lead the Blood God Guards and follow me to attack Dongyang Valley. I will break through Dongyang Valley at the fastest speed, cross the North Pacifying mountain range, and kill my way into Zhongju. Following the Demon Emperor's orders, the Demon Marshals and Venerables all obeyed. It didn't take long for the Demon Emperor to finish his orders and arrange the operation plan. The Golden Ball of Light quieted down, and no more sound came out. After a quarter of an hour or so, the Golden Ball of Light dimmed and gradually dissipated. Ji Tianxing and the other commanders frowned as they thought about the Demon Emperor's orders. Their faces became solemn and serious. Even the emperor and the imperial tutor frowned, and their faces became cold and gloomy. The atmosphere in the hall was almost frozen, and it was filled with a thick murderous aura. After a long while, the emperor swept his dignified gaze across the crowd and said, "Everyone, I believe you have heard the Demon Emperor's plan. The Demon Emperor knows that he won't be able to break through Tianlong Pass in a short time, so he can't hold back anymore. He will personally lead 2 venerables, hundreds of blood god's sons, and tens of millions of demon soldiers to attack Dongyang Valley overnight. What do you think? Let's discuss, brainstorm, and come up with a countermeasure." As the emperor's voice fell, Prince Yi took a step forward and said in a serious tone, "Emperor, Dongyang Valley is far from here. The imperial court only sent 500,000 soldiers to guard it. Although the terrain of Dongyang Valley is dangerous and easy to defend, the 500,000 soldiers will definitely not be able to stop the Demon Emperor's attack. I suggest that the emperor immediately mobilize the army to reinforce Dongyang Valley as soon as possible. Otherwise, Dongyang Valley will definitely be lost." Prince Xiaoqin nodded in agreement and said in a low voice, "Ji Tianxing's truth listener talisman played a crucial role. It allowed us to eavesdrop on the Demon Emperor's plan. This is a great fortune for us humans. We must reinforce Dongyang Valley and destroy the Demon Emperor's plan. Otherwise, it will lead to a disaster." In addition to the 2 old marshals, the Divine General of the North and the Divine General of the West Wilderness also agreed. "Yes, not only do we have to reinforce Dongyang Valley, but we also need the Emperor to lead the army. Otherwise, no one can stop the Demon Emperor." However, Xiaohan shook his head and said, "Everyone, we only have 8 million soldiers. We can barely defend Tianlong Pass with the help of the primordial divine array. How can we reinforce Dongyang Valley? If the Emperor personally leads 5 million soldiers and mobilizes 6 or 7 commanders to reinforce Dongyang Valley, we might be able to stop the Demon Emperor's attack. However, Tianlong Pass is defenseless. If the demon army takes advantage of the situation and attacks, who can stop them? By then, Tianlong Pass will definitely be lost, and the demon army will be able to invade." Great God Master He Yu also agreed. He said expressionlessly, "The ancient demon emperor has always been sinister and cunning. Who can guarantee that this is not another one of his schemes? I think that the ancient demon emperor might be creating a diversion or splitting his forces to force us to fight a decisive battle with him." Chapter 1380. Everyone understood Divine Master He Yu's words. If the emperor did not bring reinforcements, the demon king could easily break through Dongyang Valley, cross the northern pacifying mountain range, and enter the central plains. If the emperor personally led reinforcements to Dongyang Valley, the defenses of Tianlong Pass would be very weak. At that time, the 2 supremacies and several demon commanders would lead an army of 10 million to attack Tianlong Pass. Tianlong Pass would definitely fall. In short, the demon race had the absolute advantage and held the initiative. Whether or not the emperor went to reinforce Dongyang Valley, he would be in a passive position and lose a pass. After Divine Master He Yu finished speaking, the hall fell into silence. The various commanders discussed in secret, but they could not come up with a countermeasure. The Nephilim Emperor's plan was simply unsolvable. No one could break it. Even the wise and mighty emperor, the imperial tutor, who knew astronomy and geography, was stumped by the Demon King's plan. No matter how smart and resourceful the emperor, the imperial tutor, and the various commanders were, they were limited by the lack of soldiers and experts. They could not deal with it at all. In terms of numbers, the humans were far behind the demon race. In terms of numbers, the demon race had 30 million soldiers, almost 4 times the number of the humans. How should they fight this battle? No one had an answer. After a long silence, the emperor finally spoke and gave an order. Ji Tianxing, this emperor orders you to move out immediately and find out the movements of the demon race's army. You must find out if the demon king has led his army to Dongyang Valley. Only after this matter is confirmed can we proceed to the next step of the plan. Ji Tianxing did not waste any time. He cupped his fists and bowed, then immediately turned and left the hall, flying toward the northern pacifying mountain range. The emperor's gaze swept across the crowd, then he ordered, "Commanders, return to your camps immediately and prepare the army." Stand by and be ready to attack at any time. The 4 directions divine generals, the 2 old marshals, Yun Zhongqi, Long Yunxiao, and the others immediately bowed and left the hall. After a while, the hall quietened down. Only the emperor, the imperial tutor, and the divine master Blackfeather were left. The emperor looked worried as he looked at God Sage Heiyu with burning eyes. He asked in a deep voice, "Great God Sage, you should understand the current situation. The demon clan is powerful, and we have few soldiers. It is difficult to deal with them. I just want to know where the mansion master is. The Central Plains is in imminent danger and could be overturned at any moment. Why hasn't the mansion lord appeared yet?" The imperial tutor felt the same way and said, "Great God Teacher, the Central region is the territory of the human race in name, but it is actually the territory of the imperial residents. As the #1 martial holy land of the continent, the imperial monarch palace ruled over all the different races and had the right to protect the people of the continent. Now that the devil race is coming in full force and the central state is about to fall, the mansion master has mysteriously disappeared. This is really inappropriate." It was obvious that the emperor and the imperial tutor were somewhat resentful. When the demon race's army attacked, it should be the monarch residents and the human race working together to resist the demon race's army. Now, the mansion master had disappeared and only the human race was left. How could they resist the demon race? God Sage Heiyu was questioned by the emperor, but his expression did not change. He said indifferently, "The mansion master's identity is extraordinary and his whereabouts have always been mysterious. How could I know? Even if the mansion master did not appear, I will lead all the princes and god sages to participate in this war and resist the demon race's army. The imperial residence has done its best. If the emperor still has any complaints, you can speak to the mansion master. It is useless to speak to me. You." The imperial tutor was so angry that his white beard flew up. The emperor also frowned and a hint of anger flashed in his eyes. However, he did not lose his composure and asked indifferently, "Great God Sage, please try to contact the mansion master and ask him to appear as soon as possible. If the demon race really invades the Central Plains, it will not be good for us." God Sage Heiyu nodded slightly and said expressionlessly, "A few days ago, I have already sent a message to the mansion master to urge him. I believe that the mansion master will appear in the next few days." "A few days?" The emperor frowned again and murmured, "Is it 2 or 3 days, or 8 or 10 days? Can he make it in time to rescue Dongyang Valley?" God Sage Heiyu pretended that he did not hear this. He cupped his hands and bowed, "If there is nothing else, I will take my leave. I have to go back and send a message to ask the god sages and princes to prepare." After bowing, he took his leave and walked out of the main hall. However, when he was about to reach the entrance of the main hall, his expression suddenly changed and he stopped. The emperor and the imperial tutor, who looked worried, suddenly sensed something and immediately looked out of the main hall. After 3 breaths, a golden light that looked like a sharp arrow shot through the night sky. Swoosh! In an instant, the golden light pierced through the night sky and landed in front of the main hall. After the golden light faded away, a tall and sturdy figure with an imposing aura appeared. This was a middle-aged man with white hair. He wore a purple robe embroidered with stars and exuded a domineering aura. Without a doubt, he was the mansion master of the emperor's residence, Jiyu Daoxian. "Emperor, how have you been?" The mansion master put his hands behind his back and stepped into the main hall expressionlessly. He greeted the emperor from afar. God Sage Heiyu's eyes were filled with excitement when he saw his return. He quickly bowed and said, "Greetings, mansion master." The mansion master waved his hand to indicate that he could dispense with the formalities and led him into the main hall. When the emperor and the empress preceptor saw that the mansion master had finally appeared, their eyes flashed with excitement as they heaved a huge sigh of relief. "Greetings, mansion master." The 2 of them cupped their hands and bowed to the mansion master. The mansion master walked into the main hall and stood still. He looked at the emperor calmly and asked, "I did not expect the situation in the continent to become so bad after only leaving for 3 months. The demons' attacks are too strong and their pace is too fast. I have just returned to Zhongzhou. Please inform me about the situation of the 2 armies." With the mansion master present, the emperor felt less pressure and was in a better mood. He nodded to the imperial tutor and motioned for the imperial tutor to explain the situation to the mansion master. The imperial tutor did not waste any time. He quickly briefed the mansion master on the situation of the continent and the two armies in a concise and precise manner. There was also Ji Tianqing's infiltration into the devil race's main camp and the news of the sacrificial ceremony. The imperial preceptor also told the manor head about the devil emperor's plan. After learning about this, the mansion master frowned and pondered for a moment. Then, he said in a majestic tone, "The demons have many soldiers and have an absolute advantage. The demon king's plan is indeed difficult to break. However, the emperor need not worry. You only need to guard Tianlong Mountain Pass. I will personally go to Dongyang Valley and resolve the demon king's plot. Dongyang Valley has steep terrain and is easy to defend but difficult to attack." Chapter 1381. The palace master's words caused the emperor's preceptor, and god teacher He Yu's expressions to change. The emperor frowned and said worriedly, "Master, you want to go to Dongyang Valley alone? There are only 500,000 soldiers in Dongyang Valley, but the demon king has brought 10 million soldiers." The imperial tutor shook his head and said, "Master, no matter how dangerous the terrain is, it can't stop 20 times the number of soldiers. In this old man's opinion, it would be best for you to bring 2 to 3 million soldiers and 2 to 3 commanders." Divine Master He Yu said firmly, "Master, I and a few other divine masters are willing to go to Dongyang Valley with you to resist the demon army." The master pondered for a moment and said, "It's not easy to defend the Tianlong Pass with 8 million soldiers. I won't bring any more soldiers to Dongyang Valley. I only need to bring God-tier Master Blackfeather and a few other God-tier masters." The emperor was still worried and said, "Master, Dongyang Valley must not be lost. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable if the demon race invades Zhongzhou. Are you confident that you can defend Dongyang Valley with only a few divine masters?" The master nodded and said calmly, "I will rush to Dongyang Valley as soon as possible and set up a few primordial soul formation before the demon army arrives. No matter how large the demon army is, they can't break through the divine formation I set up." Seeing that Zhong Xian had already come up with a plan and was confident of succeeding, the god monarch nodded in agreement. The master didn't stay any longer. He quickly left the hall with Divine Master He Yu to gather the other divine masters. At this moment, a spiritual light flew into the hall and landed in the emperor's hand. Within the spiritual light was a communication jade slip. The emperor's divine sense invaded the jade slip and immediately read the message in it. Only then did he know that it was a message from Ji Tianqing. "Master, the demon king has indeed gathered 10 million soldiers and left the demon race's camp overnight to go to Dongyang Valley." The emperor thought for a moment, then entered a message into the jade slip and sent it back to Ji Tianqing. "Ji Tianqing, follow the demon army in secret and monitor their movements. If you find anything unusual, report it immediately. 1 day later, you will report back to our camp." The jade transformed into a beam of light and flew out of the hall, quickly disappearing into the night sky. The emperor and the imperial tutor looked at each other, and they both looked relieved. A hint of hope flashed in their eyes. Fortunately, the manor head came back in time. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Yes. With the mansion master and a few divine masters guarding Dongyang Valley, there shouldn't be a problem. However, even if the manor lord can defend Dongyang Valley, we won't be able to hold on for long. In at most half a month, the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass's ancient divine formation will lose its effect, and at that time, we will still have to fight the 20 million devils head-on. At this point, their expressions became heavy, and a layer of haze shrouded their hearts. There was no other way. Even if they could temporarily resolve the Demon King's scheme, they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass had been breached, and the demon army would invade the Central Plains. It seemed to be a foregone conclusion. Ji Tianqing crossed the northern calming mountain range and followed the demon army all the way. Although the Demon King was personally leading the army, and there were 2 primordial soul supremacies under his command. However, Ji Tianqing hid behind the demon army and carefully concealed his aura, so he wouldn't be discovered. The demon army of more than 10 million made a huge commotion. It was simply earth-shattering. 100,000 black flying ships carried the demon race army of 10 million as they hurried over the mountains and rivers. These flying boats were all flying artifacts made by demon craftsmen. Each boat could carry 100 people, and their speed was very fast. Wherever the flying boats passed, rolling demonic fog covered the night sky, and a dense black chi spread for thousands of miles. The densely packed flying boats were like an endless swarm of black ants. They formed a 400-mile-long line, looking extremely spectacular. With the speed of those flying boats, they could fly about 5,000 miles a day. In about 10 days, the demon army would arrive at East Sun Valley. Ji Tianxing followed the Emperor Lord's orders and followed the demon army for a day before returning to the human camp. Late that night, he returned to the human camp and quickly rushed to the commander's palace in the depths of the camp. In the conference hall, the Emperor Lord was still sitting on the throne, while the imperial tutor stood to the side with a horsetail whisk. There were only 3 commanders present on both sides of the hall. They were the Yi Prince, the Filial Prince, and Divine General Xiao Han. When Ji Tianxing entered the hall, the Emperor Lord was discussing military matters with the 3 commanders. Seeing him return, the Emperor Lord stopped the meeting and asked, "Tianxing, what's the Demon King's movement?" Ji Tianxing hurriedly replied, "Emperor Lord, the Demon King has led an army of 10 million to East Sun Valley and has been on the road for an entire day. I followed them all the way and didn't notice anything unusual. Everything is going according to the Demon King's plan." Only then was the Emperor Lord completely relieved. He nodded and said, "That's good. It seems that the Demon King is really going to attack East Sun Valley. Fortunately, the Palace Lord came back in time last night and has already rushed to East Sun Valley. With the Palace Lord and a few divine masters, East Sun Valley should be able to withstand the demon army's attack." Ji Tianxing was shocked when he heard the news. "What? The Palace Lord came back last night and has already rushed to East Sun Valley?" The Emperor Lord nodded and was about to tell him what happened last night. Right at this moment, a few Sky Origin stage human generals rushed over as fast as lightning, anxiously rushing into the hall. "Report. The demon army is moving again. Urgent report. Urgent report. The demon army is attacking." After the generals rushed into the meeting hall, they shouted loudly and anxiously as they reported the military situation. Hearing the shouts, the Emperor Lord and Ji Tianxing frowned and looked at them. The 4 generals who were responsible for delivering the message all knelt down in the main hall and reported in an urgent tone, "Your Highness, the demon race's main camp is filled with demonic chi, and the bugle horn has sounded. Your Majesty, the demon army has gathered and launched an attack on Heavenlong Mountain Pass at night. Your Majesty, the demon army has sent 2 legions, about 2 million soldiers, to Heavenlong Mountain Pass. The attack is very fierce. Your Majesty, the war has already begun. The 800,000 soldiers guarding Heavenlong Mountain Pass are fighting a bloody battle." The 4 generals were all guarding the front line, but their positions were different. One of them was a scout general responsible for collecting information. Some were guarding generals, and one was a vanguard general. Therefore, the 4 generals reported slightly different news, each representing the movement of the demon army. Ji Tianxing frowned when he heard the news, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The Demon King has only been out for a day, and the demon army has already sent an army to attack Heavenlong Mountain Pass. Everything is going according to the Demon King's plan. Chapter 1382. The Emperor's face was cold, and his eyes were surging with strong killing intent. Everything is going according to the Demon Emperor's plan. The demon army attacked late at night just to delay our army so that we have no time to take care of Dongyang Valley. However, the demon army is not bluffing. They will definitely attack Heavenlong Pass with all their strength. The Emperor said with an expressionless face, then made a prompt decision and ordered, "Xiao Han, immediately gather 400,000 soldiers and go reinforce the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass. Yi Qinwang, you also go back to the barracks to get ready. Gather 500,000 troops and wait for this Emperor's order." Xiao Han and Yi Qinwang hurriedly cupped their hands and saluted, and said in a solemn and respectful tone, "Yes, Emperor." After saying that, the 2 turned and left the conference hall, returning to the barracks. Seeing Ji Tianxing's worried face, the emperor said, "Tianxing, you don't have to worry about this. Every 2 or 3 days, the demon army will launch a strong attack. You have been busy for 2 days. Go and rest. If there is any mission, this emperor will summon you." Ji Tianxing shook his head and said calmly, "Emperor, I have never fought with anyone, so I don't need to rest. Heavenlong Pass is under attack. I want to go to the battlefield to see the situation and do my part." The emperor didn't want to send him to participate in the battle. He didn't expect that he would take the initiative to ask to go. In the emperor's eyes, he was the #1 genius of the continent, a top powerhouse. It was a waste of talent for such a powerhouse to lead troops in the battle. It was most suitable for him to inquire about information or carry out assassination missions. However, Ji Tianxing's attitude was very firm. He insisted on going to the battlefield of Heavenlong Pass. The emperor thought for a while and nodded in agreement. "It's good that you want to go to the battlefield to see the situation, but you can't show up easily. The demon army hates you to the bone. If they see you on the battlefield, they will definitely kill you at all costs." "I understand." Ji Tianxing nodded, bowed to the emperor, and left the hall. He flew into the dark night sky, passed through the noisy barracks, and flew toward Heavenlong Pass in the north. In the human army's barracks below, hundreds of thousands of armored and sword-wielding soldiers were nervously gathered in an orderly formation. Many generals were riding on war beasts and mounts, leading the army to the Heavenlong Pass in the north to provide support. Xiao Han and over a dozen Sky Origin stage generals were standing in the dark night sky, looking down at the formation of the army. They were preparing for the battle. Ji Tianxing didn't wait for them. He flew across the night sky as fast as lightning, heading straight for the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass. Even when he was still 100 miles away, he could see that the ancient divine formation was emitting a dazzling golden light that illuminated half of the night sky in the huge dark canyon. The furious roars of over 1 million infernal race soldiers converged into a torrent of sound waves that surged forth wave after wave. The biting cold north wind blew in their faces, carrying with it the pungent smell of blood. The air was filled with dark red blood, full of killing intent. The closer Ji Tianxing got to the Heavenlong Pass, the faster his blood flowed. His whole body was bursting with killing intent. Swish! After a while, he flew to the top of the Heavenlong Pass. The huge ancient divine formation not only had a strong defensive power, but also could release all kinds of wind blades and frost blades, which poured out like a tide. Ji Tianxing flew over the Heavenlong Pass, but he was also injured by those magic attacks. However, he relied on his powerful strength to pass through Tianlong Pass unscathed. He flew to the north of the canyon and stopped over the battlefield. Standing in the night sky, he looked down at the battlefield and carefully observed the situation. Outside the Heavenlong Pass was a huge and deep valley, which was at least 200 miles in radius. The ground in the valley had been dyed dark brown by blood. The soil was soaked and turned into bloody mud. Corpses of demons and human soldiers were lying on the ground one after another, almost covering the entire valley. Most of the corpses were incomplete, and the way they died was hideous and horrible. It was very miserable. The army of millions of Devil Clan was like a black mass of ants, spreading in the deep valley and recklessly attacking the Heavenlong Mountain Pass. Every demon soldier had a ferocious face, bursting with killing intent. They roared at the top of their lungs, waving their swords and sabers toward the Heavenlong Pass. In the formation of the demon race army, there were also thousands of ferocious and hideous demon beasts that were as large as mountains. Those demonic beasts were different. Some were like giant bears, which could smash a mountain with their claws. Some were like giant pythons, which opened their bloody mouths and spurted out monstrous venom, which instantly corroded tens of thousands of human soldiers into bones. There were also many demonic beasts, whose appearances were very strange, and no one knew their names. However, their fighting strength was extremely fierce, and they were even more powerful than Heavenly Origin stage Devil Kings. In addition to the demon army and demonic beasts, there were dozens of dark red bloodlights floating in the sky. Those were the blood gods' clones. The weaker ones were only at the Heavenly Origin stage, while the stronger ones had reached the soul refining stage. They were devouring the blood, chi, and souls on the battlefield, quickly increasing their strength. Rushing to the forefront of the demon army's formation was unexpectedly a sea of white skeletons. Those were the undead warriors summoned by the demon experts. Their fighting strength was very powerful, and they were not afraid of death. Numerous specters and ghosts were also floating in the sky, constantly releasing dark green flames and blue soul flames, crazily attacking the entrance of the Heavenlong Pass. This was the battlefield of the Heavenlong Pass. Every battle would cause hundreds of thousands of deaths. The corpses on the battlefield were piled up into mountains, and the blood gathered into lakes. Those demon experts secretly cast spells, melting the corpses and the blood lakes into undead warriors, ghosts, and devils, which served as the vanguard of the demon army. In the sky thousands of feet above the ground, thousands of demon experts and devil kings were arranged in a formation in the night sky. They joined hands to cast some kind of devil path secret technique, gathering the strength of more than 3,000 people to release all kinds of heaven-splitting giant swords, giant axes, long spears, bloodlights, and other attacks, crazily attacking the Heavenlong Pass. Inside the Heavenlong Pass, most of the soldiers were holed up in the ancient divine array, protected by the golden light shield. Some of the soldiers who left the golden light shield and rushed out of the Heavenlong Pass to stop the demon army were bombarded into meat paste by the earth-shattering attacks, instantly annihilating them. The attacks of the million demon army were like a flood pouring down from the sky, and also like a torrential rain of arrows, bombarding the golden light shield one after another, causing earth-shattering noises. Boom, 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 boom. Along with the ear-splitting noises, the huge golden light shield was constantly shaking, creating layers upon layers of ripples, flickering with dazzling golden light. Chapter 1383. In just 10 breaths of time, Ji Tianxing clearly saw the situation on the battlefield. It was also in such a short time that more than 50,000 human soldiers had died tragically outside the Tianlong Mountain Pass. Their corpses turned into skeletons, and under the control of the demon experts, they turned around and rushed into the Tianlong Mountain Pass, madly attacking the ancient divine formation. The ancient divine formation released a rain of swords and sabers, and all kinds of colorful magic attacks. Soon, tens of thousands of undead skeletons were blasted into pieces. The same scene kept repeating. As time passed, more and more broken bones piled up outside the Tianlong Mountain Pass. As a result, the ancient divine formation released 2,000 feet tall ice blue tornadoes, sweeping out of the Tianlong Mountain Pass. Swish, swish, swish. But the sea of skeletons in front of the demon army didn't decrease because of this. The number of undead warriors was still more than 300,000. They madly rushed towards the Tianlong Mountain Pass, attacking the ancient divine formation without any regard for their own safety. Ji Tianxing carefully observed for a while, and after confirming that the ancient divine formation could still hold on for a long time, he didn't worry about it anymore. He knew that it wouldn't be long before Xiao Han's 400,000 Dong Lin soldiers arrived. At that time, the 400,000 soldiers would enter the ancient divine formation, which would provide more power for the formation. A biting cold gale wrapped in blood energy blew over, causing Ji Tianxing's hair to dance and his black robe to flap violently. He stood motionless in the night sky, sweeping the battlefield with his sharp eyes, looking for the target to kill. That's right, he had been infected by the monstrous slaughter on the battlefield, and could no longer control his killing intent. He also forgot the Emperor's advice, and just wanted to kill to his heart's content. Since I fled from the northern desert back to the central province more than a year ago, I haven't fought with the demon army. Over the past year, my strength has soared crazily, and I've learned countless exquisite skills and powerful killing moves, but I've never had a chance to use them. He murmured expressionlessly in a low voice, and his whole body gradually ignited with blood-red flames of killing intent. Tonight, I'm going to start a massacre and wipe out the demon army outside the pass. As he spoke, he slowly raised both of his arms. His body was crazily accumulating chi as he prepared to destroy the heaven and earth. The originally calm night sky was instantly swept up by a monstrous hurricane. High up in the sky, lightning arcs lit up. They flickered in the dark clouds like dancing electric snakes. An invisible force that came from the sky slowly descended, enveloping the battlefield within a radius of 200 miles. Immediately, the countless demon race soldiers on the battlefield felt an enormous pressure descend upon them, and their charging pace slowed considerably. Many people were stunned. They looked up at the night sky and fixed their gazes on Ji Tianxing's figure in the sky. At this moment, his robes and long hair were fluttering in the wind. His entire body was lit up with countless arcs of lightning that crackled and flickered. Countless demon soldiers were stunned. Their eyes were filled with fear. As a member of the demon clan, he feared the divine lightning from the 9 heavens from the depths of his soul. It was an instinct and a shadow that could not be erased from the ancient times. However, the demon kings and generals immediately reacted and let out angry roars. "Look, there's a human over there. What are you waiting for? Kill him quickly. That guy is very powerful. Everyone, let's go and tear him to pieces. Kill all the humans. Leave no one alive." At least 50 Sky Origin Realm demon masters rushed towards Ji Tianxing without any regard for their own safety. They waved their swords and sabers, creating an overwhelming amount of light blades and blood flames. At the same time, Ji Tianxing slowly lowered his arms that were as heavy as mountains. He spread out his palms and formed a mysterious and weird hand seal. He pointed at the battlefield below and hollered expressionlessly, "Draw in, lightning, spell." In the next moment, thousands of dazzling purple divine lightning bolts lit up the sky. Kaboom! Following a thunderous roar, thousands of lightning pillars tore through the pitch-black clouds and the night sky, blasting toward the battlefield. Each lightning pillar was thousands of feet long. They twisted and split into many electric arcs. Thousands of lightning bolts blasted down at the same time. The dazzling lightning lit up the sky for thousands of miles. The million-strong demon race army on the battlefield looked up at the lightning bolts crashing down from the sky, and all of them were scared out of their wits on the spot. Several demon commanders in the Soul Refinement Realm and dozens of Blood God's sons in the Soul Refinement Realm who were supervising the battle in the sky immediately cast a spell to form a shield to block the lightning bolts. Boom 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 boom. In the blink of an eye, thousands of lightning bolts blasted on the battlefield, creating a series of muffled explosions. Every lightning bolt split into thousands of electric arcs and intertwined into a lightning net that covered the entire battlefield. The sky and earth within a radius of 200 miles turned into a sea of lightning. It was so dazzling that it was breathtaking. Hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers and the 300,000 undead skeletons were struck by the lightning arcs and turned into charcoal. They exploded and shattered into pieces. The dark brown earth was also struck by the lightning bolts. Dense craters appeared on the ground. It was scorched black, and black smoke rose into the sky. The sea of lightning lasted for a full 10 breaths of time before it gradually dissipated. When the lightning that filled the sky disappeared, the battlefield became riddled with holes. The formation of the Devil Race Army was also bombarded into a mess. Originally, the Demon Clan army had millions of soldiers and 300,000 undead skeletons, which almost covered the entire battlefield. But now, at least 300,000 demon soldiers were seriously injured or even killed by the lightning bolts. Nearly 100,000 undead skeletons were also blasted into pieces by the lightning bolts. They piled up outside the Heaven Dragon Pass like snow. This scene made all the Demon Clan experts and soldiers dumbfounded. Even the hundreds of thousands of human clan soldiers in the ancient divine array were dumbfounded. They were full of shock and disbelief. No one dared to believe that a black-robed human clan expert could kill 300,000 demon clan soldiers with one move by himself. This was simply an impossible miracle. The most unbelievable thing was that the human clan expert could control the 9th heaven divine thunder. This was the most miraculous and inconceivable thing. It completely overturned everyone's 3 views and understanding. After all, from ancient times until now, all martial artists believed that the 9th heaven divine thunder was controlled by heaven. Only heaven and the gods of the 9th heaven could control the divine thunder. This deep-rooted belief was completely shattered at this moment. After a while, the human clan soldiers in the ancient divine array came back to their senses and cheered in excitement. The demon clan soldiers on the battlefield also came to their senses. Countless soldiers roared in panic and anger. Chapter 1384. Ji Tianxing stood in the night sky with a cold expression. His left hand was behind his back, and his right hand was holding the black broken sword. A domineering, majestic, and incomparably powerful aura emanated from his body, intimidating everyone in the surroundings. Swoosh! Swoosh! 2 demon commanders in the soul-tempering realm led 7 blood gods' illusions and flew to Ji Tianxing's side. They spread out and surrounded him. The leader was the 2nd demon commander under the demon emperor, Broken Soul Demon Commander. He was in the 8th LV soul-tempering realm. The middle-aged demon standing beside Broken Soul Demon Commander was Demon Commander Wu Shan, whom Ji Tianxing had interacted with not long ago. Demon Commander Wu Shan was slightly weaker. He was only in the 5th LV soul-tempering realm. The other 7 blood gods' illusions were in the 3rd LV soul-tempering realm and above. The strongest one was in the 7th LV soul-tempering realm. On the battlefield of Heaven Dragon Pass, experts of this level were invincible. As long as they did not meet the Emperor, Imperial Tutor, or Divine Master He Yu, they were basically invincible. Therefore, after they surrounded Ji Tianxing, they looked at him ferociously. They were planning how to kill him to vent their anger. Demon Commander Wu Shan sized up Ji Tianxing, then grinned coldly and said, "I thought it was a human Imperial Emperor who personally took action. I didn't expect it to be a brat. Little bastard, it's too easy for you to kill you like this. Ben Shui has dozens of ways to make you wish you were dead." The other blood gods' illusions looked greedy as if they had seen a delicious meal. Broken Soul Demon Commander looked at Ji Tianxing and suddenly thought of something. His expression changed. "You are Ji Tianxing." Ji Tianxing slowly turned to look at him. His lips curled into a cold smile. He said in a low voice, "That's right. So, to reward you, I will let you die a quick death." His right hand suddenly moved. He held the sword of Burial of Heaven and slashed at Broken Soul Demon Commander. "Draw your sword." Shua! A dazzling sword light suddenly tore through the night and arrived in front of Broken Soul Demon Commander. The 2 demon commanders and the 7 clones of the blood god didn't even see how Ji Tianxing attacked. The speed of this sword was swift to the extreme. Broken Soul Demon Marshal sensed that something was amiss and instinctively held his sabers in front of his chest. Boom! The huge sword light that was hundreds of meters long struck him in an instant and sent him flying backward. The 2 sabers in his hands were also sent flying. While he was still in midair, Broken Soul Devil Marshal was already heavily injured. He opened his mouth and spat out a dark purple arrow of blood. A half-meter long wound extended from his chest to his abdomen, almost tearing his stomach apart. The wound was extremely deep, and one could clearly see the bones and internal organs within. Large amounts of purple demonic blood gushed out and scattered across the night sky. Demon General Wu Shan and the 7 blood gods were stunned when they saw this. They were extremely shocked. No one would have thought that the powerful soul-breaking Devil Marshal was actually unable to block one move from Ji Tianxing and was directly sent flying by one sword. The clones of the blood god were all demonic creatures and didn't have much emotional fluctuations. Therefore, they were the first to react. They all roared and roared, unleashing bloody light that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, attacking Ji Tianxing. Demon General Wu Shan also recovered. He hurriedly waved his black broadsword and used a secret technique to surround Ji Tianxing. However, just as the overwhelming bloodlight and magic attacks were about to drown Ji Tianxing's figure, he mysteriously disappeared. Spirit Concealment Step. He used the secret technique that Shui Ruoyu had taught him and instantly disappeared into the night sky. In the next instant, he took a step forward and silently appeared behind a clone of the blood god's clones. Die. When he said this word coldly, the sword of Burial of Heaven had already slashed out an eerie sword light and attacked the clone of the blood god's clones. Boom! The clones of the blood god's clones of the 5th level of the spirit refinement realm didn't even have time to react before they were hit by the sword light. In just an instant, the clone of the blood god's clones was split into 2 by the giant sword. However, it was only shocked for a moment before it started to laugh sinisterly. "You want to kill me with just you, little bastard? I have an immortal body, ha ha ha." As it laughed coldly, The two halves of its body glowed with dark red bloodlight and were about to merge together again. However, it was only halfway through its laughter when it suddenly stopped. Along with a burst of crackling sounds, endless lightning arcs gushed out from the sword light, enveloping both halves of its body. It was only now that it realized that the faint golden sword light was actually surrounded by dense purple lightning. It was the power of the ninth heaven divine thunder. Ji Tianxing had combined the ninth heaven divine thunder into his sword technique to specifically counter the demon race and the clones of the blood god. In the blink of an eye, the two halves of the clones of the blood god's clones were blasted into pieces by the lightning and dissipated into a bloody mist. This scene instantly scared the other 6 clones of the blood god to death. They all revealed terrified expressions. Roar! Roar! The 6 clones of the blood god roared angrily as their bodies quickly twisted and changed. Some became beasts thousands of feet tall, some became demons hundreds of feet tall, and some turned into bloody light that covered the sky and condensed into a giant light blade. They all unleashed their strongest power and attacked Ji Tianxing. Demon General Wu Shan also used a secret technique and wielded his heavy sword to attack. However, before the bloody light covered the sky, Ji Tianxing's figure disappeared again. Whoosh! He was still using the stealth step, and his figure was swallowed by the darkness. He stepped more than 20 miles away and escaped the encirclement. The next moment, he appeared behind another clones of the blood god and slashed out a sword light that was surrounded by lightning. He didn't even need to use a secret technique to deal with the clones of the 5th or 6th level of the soul refinement realm. He only needed to use 80% of his strength to kill them on the spot. Boom! With a muffled sound, another clones of the blood god were cut into pieces by the sword light. The incomparably violent lightning wrapped around the dark red fragments of light and quickly melted them. When Demon General Wu Shan and the clones of the blood god sensed his whereabouts and surrounded him again, he used the stealth step to escape again. He moved around like a ghost, disappearing and reappearing in the night sky as he played with Demon General Wu Shan and the blood gods. After a while, the heavily injured Demon General Wu Shan temporarily treated his injuries and rushed over angrily. He joined forces with the others to attack Ji Tianxing. However, Ji Tianxing ignored him and Demon General Wu Shan. He focused on killing the clones of the blood god. After all, the clones of the blood god could release the power of calamities and create a tragic massacre. They were more dangerous than the demon general. Boom! With a slash of his sword, the 3rd clones of the blood god were shattered and dissipated by the lightning. Boom! With another slash of his sword, the 4th clones of the blood god died on the spot. In just 100 seconds, 6 of the 7 soul refinement realm clones of the blood god had been killed by Ji Tianxing. The last clones of the blood god were in great fear like Demon General Wu Shan and Duan Hun. They had all lost the will to fight. They turned and ran in a panic, only wanting to get away from Ji Tianxing. Chapter 1385. Ji Tianxing had already decided to go on a killing spree to kill the commander of the demon army. How could he let Broken Soul Demon Commander and the others escape? Broken Soul Demon Commander, Wu Shan, and the blood god's son cleverly chose to flee in 3 different directions. Ji Tianxing used the stealth step without hesitation and caught up to the blood god's son in 3 breaths. Sword thrust. When he was still 5 kilometers away, he swung the sword of burial of heaven and thrust it forward. A cold light appeared and instantly pierced through the night sky. It pierced into blood god's body and exploded. Bam! A dazzling cold light rose into the air like a mushroom cloud, illuminating dozens of kilometers of the night sky. The blood god's son's 1,000-meter-tall body was blown into bloody fragments. The dense lightning arcs wrapped around the bloody light fragments and quickly shattered them, turning them into a bloody mist that dissipated. At the same time, Ji Tianxing changed directions and chased after Demon Commander Wu Shan secretly. His speed was extremely fast, and every step he took covered a distance of 20 miles. Demon Marshal Wu Shan fled with all his might. Soon, he had covered a distance of 200 miles and escaped from the battlefield. He had just flown above the mountains and was about to enter the demon camp when he couldn't help but look behind him to see if Ji Tianxing was chasing after him. With one look, he was scared out of his wits, and his eyes widened in horror. In the originally empty night sky, Ji Tianxing's figure appeared out of thin air, just 3 kilometers behind him. Swoosh! A dazzling sword light that was 1,000 feet long, surrounded by purple lightning, fiercely slashed toward him. Demon Commander Wu Shan was horrified. He instinctively held his sword in front of him and formed a bloody shield. Aside from that, he was also wearing a soul item armor. He thought that no matter how strong Ji Tianxing was, these 3 layers of defense could protect him. But, bam! With a muffled sound, the giant sword slashed down on Demon Marshal Wu Shan, drowning his figure. The black heavy sword in his hand was sent flying. The dark red bloodlight shield also shattered instantly, exploding into fragments that filled the sky. The soul tool armor he was wearing had also been ruthlessly torn apart by the sword light, turning into a pile of scrap metal. Then, Demon General Wu Shan's head and chest were split in half by the sword light. Demon blood splattered everywhere. The 2 halves of his body were wrapped in purple lightning. In the blink of an eye, they were blasted into pitch-black powder and scattered in the sky. The dark purple divine soul was also shattered by the lightning, turning into purple light fragments that fell from the night sky. Like the blood gods, Demon Marshal Wu Shan could not escape the fate of being killed instantly. Ji Tianxing didn't even bother to pick up his soul fragments. He had already turned around and flew in another direction to chase after the Broken Soul Devil Marshal. Broken Soul Devil Marshal was the strongest, and his speed of escape was also the fastest. He had already fled into the demon camp and was flying above the mountains. As he fled, he roared and bellowed furiously, releasing a dazzling blood-red light, sending out some kind of special signal. Ji Tianxing's eyes were bloodshot. He only wanted to catch up to him as quickly as possible and kill him with his sword. After all, there were only 3 demon marshals guarding the demon camp, and Broken Soul Devil Marshal was ranked second. If he killed 2 demon marshals tonight, it would be a heavy blow to the demons. Unfortunately, his plan was destined to fail. In the depths of the demon camp, a beam of blood-red light suddenly shot into the sky, forming a blood-red light shield that was hundreds of kilometers wide. Whoosh! That incomparably huge defensive light shield was like a heavenly canopy, enveloping half of the devil race's camp. Thousands of miles of the night sky was illuminated, revealing a dark red color. After Broken Soul Devil Marshal entered the blood-red light shield, he heaved a sigh of relief. Not only did he stop, he even turned around to look at him. Ji Tianxing immediately stopped his pursuit and stood in the night sky outside the light shield. That dazzling blood-red light shield emitted earth-shaking energy waves. It was clearly an Essence Soul level array. With his strength, it was impossible for him to break that array in a short period of time. Moreover, hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers appeared on the ground inside the array. They lined up in formation and worked together to inject energy into the array. 2 dazzling beams of blood-red light flew out from a 10,000 feet tall mountain, as fast as lightning. Those 2 beams of blood-red light were ever-changing, emitting the energy waves of Essence Soul experts. They were clearly not demon experts, but the 2 blood gods guarding the altar, Venerable Blood Extinguisher and Venerable Demon Blood. In the blink of an eye, the 2 venerables rushed to the edge of the array and arrived beside Broken Soul Devil Marshal. Without saying a word, they worked together to release a dozen blood-red light blades that were thousands of meters long, slashing at Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing's expression changed, and he hurriedly cast a spell to block. Golden rock wings unite. Golden light flashed behind him, and a pair of wide golden wings appeared. They quickly closed and protected him. Bam! 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 More than a dozen mountain-like saber and axe-light blades struck the pair of golden wings, producing a series of dull and loud noises. The golden wings trembled and flashed with golden light. The incomparably violent impact sent Ji Tianxing flying for more than 10 miles before he finally stopped. Fortunately, the defense of Kenshin's cloak was strong enough to block the attacks of the 2 venerables, and he was not injured. But when he saw the situation inside the array, he immediately calmed down. The 2 Essence Soul Venerables and Broken Soul Devil Marshal stood in the dark night sky. A few blood gods at the Soul Tempering Realm and more than 100 demon kings at the Divine Origin Realm were scattered on the various mountain peaks. They were controlling hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers in some kind of joint battle array. That battle array was still brewing and had yet to attack. But the combined attack of hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers and more than 100 experts was powerful enough to destroy heaven and earth. Even an essence soul expert would not be able to block it. No, I can't go in alone. It's too dangerous. If I fight with them, I won't be able to gain any advantage, and my life will be in danger. At that thought, Ji Tianxing made a prompt decision to give up on pursuing Broken Soul Devil Marshal. Although it was a pity, he had no other choice. Tonight, I've killed more than 200,000 demon soldiers, a demon marshal, and 7 blood gods at the soul tempering realm. I've already made the demons suffer heavy losses. I'll avoid them for now, and find another opportunity to continue assassinating other demon marshals and blood god. These thoughts flashed through Ji Tianxing's mind, and he turned and disappeared into the night, returning to Tianlong Mountain Pass as fast as the aurora. The 2 venerables and Broken Soul Devil Marshal were full of anger and murderous intent. They could not wait to tear him into pieces. When they saw Ji Tianxing running away, they immediately rushed out of the array and began to chase him. However, Ji Tianxing used the divinity concealment step and disappeared into the night. Even the aura of his divine soul was concealed. The 2 venerables were shaken off by him, and they could not find any trace of him. They could not do anything to him. After 10 breaths, Ji Tianxing returned to Tianlong Mountain Pass. Chapter 1386. When Ji Tianxing returned to the Tianlong Mountain Pass, Xiaohan also arrived with the army. 400,000 troops entered the Tianlong Mountain Pass, immediately replenishing the ancient divine formation with a powerful force. The ancient divine formation's defense became more and more powerful, tenaciously resisting the attack of the devil army, and remained as steady as a rock. Ji Tianxing stood in the night sky outside the Tianlong Mountain Pass, expressionlessly looking at the battlefield, once again waving his palms, exerting all his strength to display his lost technique. Meteor fire rain. He exerted all his strength, accumulating the power to destroy the heaven and earth in his body, and his whole body lit up with a dark red flame. His palms pinched a mysterious and strange incantation sign, invisibly manipulating the divine power of heaven and earth. After just a few breaths, in the dark night sky thousands of miles high, flames began to light up. Countless balls of crimson flames poured down from the sky like dense raindrops. The flames illuminated the sky dome, covering a radius of 1,000 miles. Half of the sky turned red, like the sunset glow under the setting sun. A terrifyingly high temperature descended from the night sky and enveloped the entire battlefield. The hundreds of thousands of devil army, who were shouting and charging, were immediately intimidated by the brilliant heavenly power, and stopped their charge, looking up at the night sky with a face full of fear. The next moment, the flames blotted out the sky, dragging a long flame tail, bombarded from the sky, drowning the whole battlefield. Boom, boom, boom. A deafening sound burst out, resounding through the world, shaking the sky. In just a moment, the battlefield within a radius of 200 miles was drowned by the monstrous fire rain, turning into a sea of red flames, the flames rising fiercely. More than 200,000 undead skeletons, more than 600,000 devil soldiers, all bobbed up and down in the sea of flames, letting out roars of panic and screams of pain. Only those devil powerhouses above the Tianyuan realm could quickly fly into the night sky, escaping the fate of being burned to ashes by the sea of flames. The raging flames lasted for dozens of breaths, gradually extinguishing and dissipating. When the flames gradually extinguished, everyone saw the situation of the battlefield, and suddenly revealed a face full of shock. They saw that the battlefield within a radius of 200 miles had completely turned into a dark scorched ruin. In the lower part of the valley, there was even a large amount of dark red lava flowing. It was made of mud and rocks that had been burned by the heavenly fire. It contained a terrifyingly high temperature and was slowly flowing through the valley. Of the 200,000 undead skeletons, only a few tens of thousands were left. Nearly 200,000 undead skeletons were reduced to ashes in the sea of fire, scattering in the scorched earth and ruins. Originally, the Devil Race Army had more than 600,000 people. At this moment, only about 100,000 Devil Race warriors were left standing. Nearly 500,000 demons were burned into charcoal by the meteor shower, turning into pieces of black dregs that were scattered on the battlefield. Even if there were some who were lucky enough to survive, they were heavily injured and charred like charcoal. They had basically lost their ability to fight. Ji Tianxing's meteor fire rain heavily injured the Devil Race army and instantly disintegrated their offensive. Half an hour ago, the army of the Devil clan, along with 400,000 skeletons, rushed towards the Heaven Dragon Pass. But now, the battlefield was in a miserable state. It was too horrible to look at. Only a few 100,000 remained of the million-strong army, and only a few tens of thousands of undead skeletons remained. Such heavy losses directly scared the Devil Race army out of their wits, and they no longer had the slightest fighting spirit. Without a doubt, the surviving Devil Race army could only withdraw, bringing a large number of seriously injured and disabled soldiers back to the Devil Race camp. Inside the ancient divine formation, the hundreds of thousands of human race soldiers were dumbfounded. It took them a long time to come back to their senses. Everyone cheered with high morale, revealing an excited and fanatical expression. They worshipped Ji Tianxing to the extreme. One after another, hoarse shouts came out from the divine formation. Hero. Our hero. Ji Tianxing. War god. The war god of the human race. When someone took the lead to shout, more people echoed, shouting and cheering. Before long, the shouts of countless soldiers converged in unison, turning into a deafening sound wave that exploded in the night sky. War god Tianxing. Invincible. Ji Tianxing stood in the night sky outside the Heaven Dragon Pass, his robe and long hair fluttering in the wind. With his back to the Heaven Dragon Pass, he looked in the direction of the Devil Race camp. His face was calm and indifferent, his eyes sharp and wise, and his whole body exuded a domineering aura that looked down on the world. In front of him was a mountain of corpses and a pitch-black scorched battlefield. Behind him were hundreds of thousands of excited human race soldiers. At this moment, he was sacred and mighty to the extreme, like a god, making people unable to help but worship him. His back was not broad, but it was incomparably majestic, as if it could shoulder the heaven and earth. It was deeply imprinted in the hearts of hundreds of thousands of soldiers, and would never be forgotten. The next morning, outside the Heaven Dragon Pass, it was quiet. The Devil Race army had suffered heavy casualties, and had already retreated to the Devil Race camp. Tens of thousands of human race soldiers were cleaning the battlefield outside the pass, collecting and counting some spoils of war. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers were guarding inside the Heaven Dragon Pass, maintaining the operation of the ancient divine formation. Although the battle had ended a few hours ago, everyone was still shocked and excited. They were all in high spirits as they discussed the battle. In the human race camp, there was also an atmosphere of celebration and shock. The news that Ji Tianxing flew out of the Heaven Dragon Pass alone, and used a secret method to trigger the ninth heaven divine thunder and the heavenly dipper raging fire, and severely injuring the Devil Race army of millions, had already spread in the camp. Millions of human race soldiers were stunned, and only felt that it was inconceivable. But this happened last night, and was witnessed by hundreds of thousands of soldiers, so there was absolutely no falsehood. Therefore, millions of soldiers, in addition to talking about it, also worshipped Ji Tianxing to the extreme. The name of the Sky Traverser's battle god was acknowledged by countless soldiers, and it quickly spread throughout the human tribe's camp. Since the Devil Race army marched south and arrived at the Heaven Dragon Pass, millions of soldiers were in a heavy and depressed mood, and guarded here with the determination to die. For 20 days, the human race camp had been filled with a heavy and austere atmosphere, and everyone's heart was shrouded in a haze. However, Ji Tianxing's feat last night, the miracle created, swept away the depressed atmosphere in the human race camp. All the soldiers were excited, as if they saw the hope and dawn of victory. After Ji Tianxing returned to the human race camp, every time he met a human race soldier, he would be surrounded like stars around the moon, and received the support and worship of the soldiers. Everywhere he went, he heard cheers and praises. Even the commanders of the various camps were full of praise and admiration for him. However, for all this, he was indifferent, without the slightest pride or arrogance. Because he knew that this was just the beginning. Chapter 1387. Early in the morning, in the commander's palace in the depths of the human camp. In the conference hall, The Celestial Emperor sat at the head of the table as usual, while the Imperial tutor stood by his side. The 8 commanders were gathered in the hall, standing on both sides of the hall. Ji Tianxing was naturally present as well. Early in the morning, the Celestial Emperor had summoned all the commanders for a conference. The Celestial Emperor's gaze swept across everyone, and he said confidently, "I'm sure everyone knows about what happened last night, right?" The 8 commanders nodded their heads one after another. They all revealed gratified smiles and looked at Ji Tianxing with admiration. The Celestial Emperor also revealed a gratified smile and nodded slightly. Previously, this emperor was very worried and warned Ji Tianxing not to come out of seclusion to fight alone, in case something unexpected happened. "I didn't expect this fellow to not listen to this emperor's advice and come out of seclusion to fight the demon army alone." Upon hearing these words, all the commanders were stunned for a moment, the smiles on their faces quickly receding. Everyone thought that the Celestial Emperor was angry and wanted to punish Ji Tianxing for disobeying orders. However, the Celestial Emperor continued, "I didn't expect this fellow to create a miracle. He used his own strength to severely injure the million demon army and disrupted the demon army's attack. Truly incredible. All of us underestimated his true strength." Hearing this, everyone's mood finally relaxed. Ji Tianxing stood calmly in the hall without any change in his expression, appearing very calm and composed. The Celestial Emperor's smile disappeared, and he said with a serious expression, "Everyone knows that the morale of our soldiers has been low for the past few days. Many of them are determined to die, and they are very pessimistic. Last night's matter greatly boosted the morale of our soldiers, and they are filled with ambition. We also see hope for victory. Thus, many commanders and a dozen generals have suggested to this emperor that we plan a mission and take the initiative to attack. I have gathered all of you here to discuss this matter. Everyone, please express your opinions." Hearing this, the commanders' expressions changed slightly, and their gazes became somewhat complicated. The 4 directions divine generals, Yun Zhongqi, and the others all began to whisper to each other. The Yi prince took a step forward and said in an impassioned tone, "Monarch, this old subject believes that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We should take the initiative to attack." The demon emperor had already led 2 supremacies and an army of 10 million to attack Dongyang Valley. Now that there is no demon emperor in the demon camp, the defense force is weak. This is the best opportunity for us to attack. Prince Filial Piety also nodded in agreement, his tone solemn as he said, "This old official agrees. Our race's officers and soldiers have been defending Tianlong Mountain Pass. They have been in a passive position, which is why their morale is low and they are pessimistic. Last night, Ji Tianxing created a miracle and heavily injured the million-strong devil army. His display of heavenly might greatly boosted the morale of our race. Now that the morale of the soldiers is high, it's the best time to set out. Furthermore, there are only 2 venerables in the devil camp. With your and Ji Tianxing's strength, you can easily kill those 2 venerables. Once the 2 primordial soul realm supremacies were killed, the remaining demon marshals and spirit-tempering realm experts were nothing to worry about. By then, when the commanders of the devil camp are dead, the devil army will definitely fall into chaos and collapse. Even if we can't destroy the devil camp, we can take the opportunity to destroy the devil altar and destroy the demon emperor's plan to revive the ancestor devil god. Logically speaking, we should seize the opportunity and take the initiative to attack the devil camp." The words of the 2 old marshals were very logical and logical. The 4 directions divine generals, Yun Zhongqi, Long Yunxiao and the others were still hesitating and considering. After hearing the 2 old marshals' analysis, everyone was slightly moved. The North Frontier divine generals and West Baron divine generals also expressed their agreement after some consideration, urging the Imperial Emperor to give the order to set out. Only Ji Tianxing, Long Yunxiao and Yun Zhongqi did not speak. Yun Zhongqi maintained a neutral attitude and did not take the initiative to speak, only following the Imperial Emperor's orders. Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment, then shook his head with a serious expression. He said, "My lords, although your analysis is very logical, I do not agree with taking the initiative to attack. I was lucky to be able to create a miracle last night. The devil race experts did not expect me to be there, much less that I would come out of seclusion to fight. They were caught off guard, so I was able to use the secret technique and heavily injure the devil army. After this incident, my existence has been exposed. The devil race experts will definitely be on guard. If you want to create another miracle like last night, it's absolutely impossible. Hearing him say this, the two old marshals frowned and quickly waved their hands. Ji Tianxing, don't be so humble. We have all seen your strength. That's right. Sometimes, being overly humble is hypocritical. You are the continent's #1 genius. Although you have not reached the primordial spirit realm, you are already comparable to an primordial spirit expert. Ji Tianxing did not continue their conversation and continued his analysis. When I infiltrated the devil camp, I took note of the devil camp's defenses. On the surface, the devil camp was only hidden underground and did not have many defensive measures. But in reality, the devil camp had already set up an inescapable net and built all kinds of powerful defensive formations and mechanisms. In the past half a month, the Devil King did not show himself because he was setting up defenses for the devil camp. If he was not completely confident, why would he leave the devil camp and attack Dongyang Valley? He paused here and said in a serious tone, in addition, don't forget that the Devil King's mount, the nether-suppressing soul beast, did not follow the Devil King to Dongyang Valley. If the monarch personally leads the expedition and we attack the devil camp, we are risking the fate of the human race. It is a gamble. If by any chance we lose the bet and lose millions of soldiers or generals, the Heaven Dragon Pass will be finished. After saying this, he looked at the monarch with shining eyes and said in a serious tone, Monarch, I suggest that we do not act rashly. Continue to defend Heaven Dragon Pass and wait for changes. Now that his status in the human race was extremely high, his words carried more weight than the other marshals. The monarch nodded and said in a serious tone, Tianxing, this emperor will seriously consider your suggestion. However, the Yi Prince, the filial prince, and the 3 divine generals all felt that this was a rare opportunity and insisted on taking the initiative to attack. In their view, the fact that the Devil King was not in the devil camp was the best opportunity. In the devil camp, there were no top experts who could resist the monarch. Moreover, the devil army was several times more numerous than the human army. The human race could not keep delaying and defending Heaven Dragon Pass. Otherwise, the human army would be defeated sooner or later. 10 days later, the ancient divine formation of Heaven Dragon Pass would be closed. At that time, Heaven Dragon Pass would fall without a doubt. Rather than passively waiting for defeat, it was better to take the chance and perhaps win. Even if they could not destroy the devil camp, it would be a great success if they could destroy the primogenitor altar and prevent the rebirth of the demon god. Chapter 1388. Although Ji Tianxing suggested that they should bide their time and wait for the changes, Ji Tianxing's suggestion was to wait and see. However, the 2 old marshals and 3 divine generals all wanted to take the initiative. Long Yunxiao and Yun Zhengqi remained neutral and didn't express their opinions. Everyone discussed and argued for a long time, but they couldn't reach a consensus. In the end, the imperial tutor, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. In 12 days, the ancient divine formation will close. We definitely won't be able to defend Heaven Dragon Pass. Defeat is inevitable. Since that's the case, we might as well take the chance to turn the situation around. The demon army definitely won't expect us to take the initiative to attack. If we succeed, we'll be able to restrain the demon emperor and his army. That way, Dongyang Valley's crisis will be resolved. However, this is only my suggestion. In the end, it's still up to you to decide. Hearing this, everyone in the hall quieted down and looked at the imperial tutor at the head of the table. The imperial tutor had to solve this problem. The imperial tutor frowned and thought for a while, then said in a low voice, everyone is arguing endlessly, but each of you has your own opinions. Whether we attack or not, there are corresponding pros and cons. Since that's the case, let's all vote. The minority obeys the majority. After a pause, he swept his dignified gaze across everyone and said, those who agree with taking the initiative to attack, step forward. As his voice fell, the Yi Prince, Xiaoqin Prince, the Northern Frontier Divine General, the Western Wilderness Divine General, and the Midland Divine General all took a step forward. Ji Tianxing, Long Yunxiao, Xiao Han, and Yun Zhongqi stood still. Without a doubt, the result of the vote was out. The imperial tutor was silent for a while, then said in a low voice, "Since that's the case, we'll take the initiative to attack the demon camp. This plan concerns the survival of Heaven Dragon Pass and the fate of our race. We can't be reckless. Let's discuss when and how to deploy the operation." Next, the imperial tutor, the divine generals, and the two old marshals discussed the expedition. Long Yunxiao, Xiao Han, and Yun Zhongqi listened carefully, occasionally chiming in and giving their opinions. Only Ji Tianxing remained silent. His face was calm as he stood in the hall, listening to everyone discuss the plan. He looked calmly at Yi Qin Wang and the others. Seeing their confident and spirited appearances, he couldn't help but sigh inside. They all want to end the war as soon as possible and drive the Devil Army back to the northern desert, but they are too eager for quick success. The Devil Emperor was the #1 devil under the Devil God for the past 10,000 years. He was powerful, had many tricks up his sleeves, and was extremely cunning. Since the Demon Emperor dared to leave the demon camp, how could he not be prepared? If you lead the army to attack now, wouldn't you be walking right into a trap? It was not that he was afraid of the Demon Emperor and the demon army, nor was it because he was pessimistic and desperate. It was just that he knew the Devil Emperor better than anyone else, which was why he had such a thought. However, the Emperor had already let everyone vote and decided to take the initiative to attack. What was the use of him objecting alone? The leader of the human race was the Imperial Emperor. Only the words of the Imperial Emperor were orders that could be obeyed. Sigh. I hope I'm just overthinking things. I pray that this operation will succeed. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Ji Tianxing sighed helplessly, and his eyes dimmed. Unknowingly, 2 hours passed. The Imperial Emperor and the various commanders discussed for 2 whole hours and finally formulated a series of operation plans. Everyone's discussion was very thorough. They had considered every possible thing that might happen after they set out on the expedition. On the surface, the operation plan this time could be said to be perfect and flawless. Therefore, the Imperial Emperor ordered in a dignified voice, "Everyone, this Emperor announces that 3 days later, at midnight, we will kill our way out of Tianlong Pass and attack the Devil Camp. At that time, the Emperor will lead the Flying Dragon Camp to guard the camp and Tianlong Pass. They will be responsible for receiving the army. The other commanders will lead the soldiers under their command to follow this Emperor to participate in the battle. In these 3 days, everyone should rest and recuperate well. Double the resources and supplies for the soldiers so that they can conserve and store up their energy." All the commanders said yes in unison, then bowed and took their leave. They left the meeting hall one after another. Ji Tianxing did not say anything. After bowing to the Imperial Emperor, he turned and walked out of the hall. As soon as he walked out of the meeting hall, Long Yunxiao caught up with him and walked side by side with him. He asked, "Tianxing, this Emperor saw that you have been silent all this time. You seem to be in a bad mood." Ji Tianxing turned his head and gave him a supercilious look. "You already know the answer." Long Yunxiao did not feel embarrassed. He said earnestly, "Tianxing, this Emperor knows that you oppose this decision, but the commanders insist on going to war. The Imperial Emperor can only let everyone vote. Moreover, their analysis is clear and reasonable, which is beneficial to us and not harmful. They have also formulated a perfect operation plan. Perhaps this is really our chance to turn the situation around." Ji Tianxing frowned, looked at him with a dignified look, and said in a deep voice, "Emperor, the commanders are anxious for success. They only want to end the war as soon as possible, so they are so reckless. They don't understand the horror of the Devil Emperor. I can understand why they made such a decision. However, you must remain calm. You must not let your guard down. 3 days later, when the army sets out, you will be responsible for guarding Tianlong Mountain Pass and the main camp. You must maintain 120% vigilance and prepare for the worst. This is my advice. That's all I have to say." After saying this, he flew into the sky and quickly flew away. Long Yunxiao stood outside the hall, looking at his departing figure. He frowned and pondered for a long time before turning and leaving. For the next 3 days, the inside and outside of Tianlong Mountain Pass were very quiet. The main camp of the devil race was as calm as ever, shrouded in devil chi and black clouds. They seemed to have been intimidated by the previous crushing defeat. They retreated into the main camp to recuperate, not daring to rashly attack again. This made the soldiers of the human race feel a lot more relieved. Their morale was boosted, as if they had touched the dawn of victory. Millions of soldiers received double the amount of supplies and rations. In these 3 days, they rested and nurtured their strength, preparing for war. Everyone received the order. They knew that the time of the decisive battle was coming. Their hearts were filled with fighting spirit and anger, waiting to vent it on the battlefield. Very quickly, 3 days passed. On this night, the sky darkened even earlier than usual. The curtain of night was gloomy, and the night sky was as black as ink. There was no moon, only a few stars, emitting a weak light. The biting cold northern wind whistled, causing the temperature of the world to become ice cold. A somber atmosphere enveloped the atmosphere. Under the curtain of night, the human race's main camp was actually crowded with people, a surging tide of people. More than 6 million soldiers of the human race, all wearing ice-cold armor, carrying sabers and holding spears, were rapidly assembling into ranks. In order to not arouse the vigilance of the devil race, everyone kept quiet. Their movements were very quiet. Chapter 1389. The human soldiers had rested and honed their strength for 3 days and were well prepared. As a result, the army only took an hour to assemble. More than 6 million soldiers left the camp under the leadership of the 7 commanders and rushed towards Heaven Dragon Pass. Inside Heaven Dragon Pass, the 500,000 soldiers of the Flying Dragon camp under Long Yunxiao were guarding the ancient divine formation. Above the canyon, the sovereign emperor in a purple dragon robe was standing in the dark night sky. He wore a noble purple gold dragon crown on his head, a dark golden cloak with dragon patterns on his body, and a golden sword at his waist. His hands were behind his back, his eyes deep and sharp as he looked at the demon camp outside the pass. The biting cold wind whistled, causing his robes to dance fiercely. The imperial tutor held a horsetail whisk and stood beside him, his white hair, white beard, and white robe also fluttering in the wind. Behind the two of them in the night sky stood 2 handsome and valiant youths. They were Ji Tianxing and Long Yunxiao. Ji Tianxing looked the same as before, wearing a black robe, empty-handed, and with a calm and indifferent expression. Long Yunxiao wore a soul tool-grade golden armor, a golden dragon glass helmet on his head, and a sword with a golden dragon coiled around it at his waist. He looked very valiant. The 4 of them were silent, looking in the direction of the demon camp, killing intent accumulating in their eyes. When the great formation of Heaven Dragon Pass opened and the Yi Prince led the 800,000 soldiers out of Heaven Dragon Pass, the sovereign emperor finally spoke. Tianxing, tonight you will follow this sovereign to battle. You must keep a close eye on those 2 primordial soul venerables. You must not let them release the 3 calamities and 9 tribulations and slaughter our army. Even if we cannot destroy the camp, you must act according to the circumstances and try to destroy the demon altar and the ancestral demon god's divine body. Ji Tianxing nodded silently and replied with a calm tone, "Understood." The sovereign emperor then warned him in a low voice, "However, you must act according to the circumstances. If things are not going well, immediately retreat. There must not be any mishaps." Ji Tianxing nodded again. The emperor was still looking at the camp of the devil army in the distance. Without turning his head, he said to Long Yunxiao, "Yunxiao, I didn't let you lead the army into battle, not because I was afraid that you would die on the battlefield, but because I gave you the most sacred and solemn mission. No matter what the situation is, you must protect the camp and Tianlong Mountain Pass with your life." Long Yunxiao took a deep breath. With a solemn tone, he said resolutely, "Don't worry, Your Majesty. Even if I die on the battlefield, I will guard Tianlong Mountain Pass." The emperor nodded solemnly. He waved his sleeve and ordered, "Let's go." With these words, he flew across the night sky with the imperial tutor, heading straight for the demon camp. Ji Tianxing turned his head and glanced at Long Yunxiao. Then, he followed closely behind emperor and flew towards the camp of the devil race. Although the 2 of them didn't talk, Long Yunxiao understood the look in his eyes. He stood in the night sky, looking at the backs of Ji Tianxing and the other two leaving. He whispered, "This battle, we can only win, we can't lose." The 800,000 troops led by the Yi prince were the vanguard of this war. After the army rushed out of Tianlong Mountain Pass, they still maintained their silence. They crossed the scorched earth battlefield at their fastest speed and rushed towards the demon camp in the north. However, as soon as the army entered the scorched earth battlefield, the demons sensed danger. In the demon camp, a dozen blood-colored pillars of light immediately shot into the night sky and exploded with a deafening sound. This was the warning signal of the demons. A quarter of an hour later, when the vanguard crossed the scorched earth battlefield and was about to rush into the demon camp, hundreds of thousands of troops rushed out from the ground of the demon camp like a tide. They rushed forward as fast as the wind. Hundreds of thousands of tall demon warriors, wearing black armor and wielding long spears and large blades, rushed through the mountains and rivers. In front of the army, in the dark brown mountains and rivers, numerous undead skeletons sprouted out like bamboo shoots after the rain. Hundreds of thousands of skeleton warriors quickly gathered into a sea of white bones. Like a tide, they rushed fearlessly towards the vanguard of the human race. In the demon army, there were also thousands of demon beasts as large as mountains. They galloped over the mountains and rivers, their footsteps making deep rumbling sounds. Their bodies emitted a bloody light and were wrapped in dark red flames. Even from a dozen li away, they released a bloody light and flames that covered the sky and poured down on the human army. Above the demon army, there were also hundreds of demon kings of the heavenly origin stage, a dozen blood gods of the soul refining stage and demon experts galloping through the night sky. Without a doubt, this demon army of about 600,000 was the vanguard of the demon army. The two vanguard battalions were courageously charging, like two tides spreading through the mountains and rivers. Very soon, they would collide. A bitter and bloody battle was about to break out. High up in the sky, the emperor, the imperial tutor, and Ji Tianxing looked down at the scene below and frowned with grave expressions. Damn it! Our plan was very secretive. We attacked in the middle of the night. How did the demons discover us so quickly? The demons reacted too quickly. It's as if they were prepared. I'm afraid the situation is not good. If the demons were prepared, our army would be in danger. The real battle had not yet begun, but the situation was already bad. The expressions of the three were somewhat grave, a layer of haze shrouding their hearts. Ji Tianxing looked at the devil race's main camp and pointed at the hundreds of faintly discernible blood-colored balls of light in the black clouds that covered the sky. He explained to the monarch, the sky within 1,000 miles of the devil race's main camp is shrouded in black clouds and devil energy. I suspect that this is some kind of great formation set up by the devil emperor. Those hundreds of bloody eyeballs seem to be some kind of secret technique that can monitor everything within 1,000 li. I have an ominous premonition that the demon army must have some kind of backup plan. The emperor had been sitting in the human camp all this time. He had never left the Heaven Dragon Pass, let alone entered the demon camp. At this time, after hearing Ji Tianxing's explanation, he observed for a moment and believed Ji Tianxing's words. It seems that the situation is as you said. The demon emperor has already set up an inescapable net in the demon camp and built a powerful defensive formation. I didn't expect that the demons would turn 1,000 li into such a state after occupying this place for only 20 days. When his voice fell, the two torrents on the ground below finally collided head-on. The two vanguard armies finally met face to face and immediately began a fierce battle. Deafening battle cries immediately broke out, shaking the sky. The muffled sounds of swords clashing, as well as the muffled sounds of various secret techniques colliding, mixed together and broke the tranquility of the night sky. Thus, the curtains of a fierce battle were drawn. The soldiers of both sides charged forward without any regard for their own safety. The light of swords and sabers and the light of true essence illuminated the night sky. In just 10 breaths of time, nearly 20,000 people died tragically on the spot, turning into fragmented bodies that fell on the battlefield. Chapter 1390. Just as the two vanguard armies were entangled in battle, the second human army arrived. This army was led by the divine general of the northern frontier. There were more than 700,000 soldiers under his command, all of whom were capable warriors. After the army arrived at the battlefield, they immediately attacked the demon vanguard from the flanks according to the plan they had already made. Between the mountains and rivers in the distance, there were 2 more human armies rushing over. Within the Devil Race's camp, numerous Devil Race soldiers also emerged, sweeping over like a black tide. Looking down from the night sky, the demon army far outnumbered the human army, and their momentum was even greater. Without a doubt, what awaited the human army was an extremely tragic and bloody battle. Just as Ji Tianxing and the other 2 were observing the situation on the battlefield, dozens of dazzling bloody lights came from the night sky in front of them. They were led by 2 demon commanders, leading more than a dozen Soul Refinement Realm demon experts and more than 20 Soul Refinement Realm blood gods. They rushed over aggressively, stopped around Ji Tianxing and the other 2, and spread out to surround them. At this time, Ji Tianxing saw clearly that the demon commander in the lead was tall and burly, wearing a black armor that did not reveal any skin, and was surrounded by a cold aura of death. He immediately recognized that this was the first demon commander under the demon emperor, Great Demon Commander Mingya. The demon commander beside Mingya was the soul-severing demon commander that he had injured with a sword. When Ji Tianxing sized them up, they also saw the appearance of Ji Tianxing and the other 2. Immediately, Demon Commander Mingya and soul-severing demon commander trembled, revealing an incredulous expression. Ji Tianxing, the human imperial tutor? The human imperial emperor? I really didn't expect that a human imperial emperor would do such a thing, attacking our camp in the middle of the night. Soul-severing demon commander looked at the imperial emperor with a face full of shock, and sneered disdainfully. Demon Commander Mingya also let out a metallic sound, and said in a cold tone, Imperial Emperor, have you humans already given up resisting? How dare you take the initiative to attack? The Emperor stared at the 2 demon commanders expressionlessly and shouted majestically, Tonight, not only will the 2 of you die, I will also destroy the camp of the demon race and exterminate the demon race's army. Soul-severing demon commander immediately frowned and sneered playfully, Haha, as expected of the human imperial emperor, your tone is so arrogant. Ben Shuai has long heard of the human imperial emperor powerful strength, ranked 2nd on the continent. Tonight, Ben Shuai wants to see how powerful you are. After saying that, the broken soul demon commander waved his hand and gave the order. More than a dozen demon clan experts and more than 20 blood gods clones immediately used their secret techniques and rushed towards the emperor and the emperor's preceptor fearlessly. Demon commanders Dark Knight and Soul-Breaking Demon also took out their soul tools and hid in the darkness, looking for an opportunity to attack. Facing the siege of more than 30 experts, the Imperial Emperor and the Imperial Tutor were fearless. The Imperial Tutor made a spell with his left hand and waved the white horsetail whisk with his right hand, constantly shooting out 7-colored dazzling light to resist the siege of many experts. His white robe fluttered, and his movements were light and elegant. He was at ease in the midst of the overwhelming spell attacks. The Imperial Emperor did not even draw his sword. His body stood in the night sky as steady as Mount Tai, and did not move at all. Using only his palms and wide sleeves, he unleashed a sky full of magical brilliance, crushing all the attacks and sending the demon race masters and the blood gods' sons flying back. However, those blood gods in the soul refining realm were very difficult to deal with. Even if they were shattered by the Imperial Emperor's spell and turned into bloody fragments, they would reassemble their bodies. They turned into huge ghosts, demons, or giant beasts, and charged at the Imperial Emperor without fear of death, vowing to entangle the Imperial Emperor and the Imperial Tutor. Ji Tianxing was about to draw his sword to help when the Imperial Emperor's voice sounded in his mind. Tianxing, these small fries are no threat to us. This Imperial Emperor and the Imperial Tutor will soon deal with them. You don't have to pay attention to them. Quickly help the army resist the demons, find a chance to sneak into the demon camp, and carry out the previous plan. Ji Tianxing understood that the Imperial Emperor's plan was to destroy the altar and the ancestral demon god's divine body. Compared to killing Commander Mingya and the others, destroying the altar was obviously more important. Thus, he followed the Imperial Emperor's order and quietly left the encirclement, flying toward the battlefield below. Spirit concealment step. He used the spirit concealment step and immediately disappeared into the darkness. After 2 short breaths, he crossed 40 miles and arrived in the sky above a mountain. Around the mountain, tens of thousands of undead skeletons were besieging more than 20,000 human soldiers. The sea of white skeletons formed a huge encirclement, surrounding the human soldiers so tightly that not even a drop of water could pass through. Although the human soldiers desperately charged forward, they were unable to break through the encirclement. Instead, their numbers kept decreasing and were being devoured by the sea of skeletons. What was even more terrifying was that the human soldiers who died in the battle melted away after falling to the ground, turning into skeletons. Their blood, chi, and souls were devoured by the blood god's sons wandering around the battlefield. Their corpses were turned into white skeletons by the demon powerhouses using a secret technique. They crawled up and joined the battle, brandishing their blades to kill the human soldiers. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing waved his palms without hesitation, forming a mysterious seal. He used a secret technique that he had not used for a long time. Great Tao Imperfection, Pure Heart, 3 Pure Qi Transformation, Mysterious Sky Demon Suppression. As the seal was formed, he shouted in a low voice. His palms spread out a divine golden light that covered the sky and earth, scattering it toward the sea of skeletons below. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, the dazzling golden light drowned the undead skeletons around the mountain. Wherever the divine golden light shrouded, the undead skeletons immediately melted like snow, turning into a pile of broken bones, scattering on the ground. In just 2 breaths of time, the divine golden light purified an area of more than 20 miles. The sea of skeletons was immediately reduced by more than half. Of the more than 60,000 undead skeletons, only about 20,000 remained. Those despairing human soldiers witnessed this miraculous scene with their own eyes. They immediately raised their heads to look at Ji Tianxing in the night sky. When they saw Ji Tianxing's figure, they all showed a look of incomparable surprise, shouting and cheering at the top of their lungs. Ji Tianxing did not stop. His figure flashed and disappeared into the darkness, chasing towards the northwest. There, a figure in a black robe was flying rapidly in the night sky, fleeing towards the depths of the demon camp. Ji Tianxing had long expected that there must be demon powerhouses secretly casting spells to create and manipulate those undead skeletons. Those powerhouses who cast spells were called spirit controllers by the demon race. Both inside and outside the Heaven Dragon Pass were battlefields. Blood and corpses were everywhere, piling up like mountains and flowing like rivers. 4 spirit controllers, millions of corpses were materials to create undead skeletons. Only by uncovering those spirit controllers hiding in the dark could the undead army be completely eliminated. Chapter 1391. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing used the divine concealment step and sped through the night like an aurora. In the short span of 4 breaths, he had taken 5 steps and covered a distance of 100 miles. At this moment, he had already caught up to the black-robed figure. However, the black-robed figure had also escaped into the demon camp. Demon experts flew over from all directions and rushed towards the battlefield. The black-robed figure brushed past those demon experts and continued flying towards the depths of the camp. Ji Tianxing remained invisible and stared at the figure, frowning in confusion. The black-robed figure was a little strange. It was only about 7 feet tall and its body was not as muscular as the demon's. Even though it was covered by a wide black robe that did not reveal any skin or face. However, Ji Tianxing still felt that the black-robed figure's body shape was very similar to a human's. 10 breaths later, the black-robed figure escaped into the depths of the demon camp. Between the mountains and rivers in all directions, there was a dense demon army. In the night sky, there were many Demon King-level experts who were flying rapidly. High up in the sky, dozens of blood-colored eyeballs shone in the pitch-black clouds. To the black-robed figure, this place was extremely safe. He turned around and looked behind him. Seeing that the night sky was empty, he heaved a sigh of relief and slowed down his flying speed. However, just as he thought that he was safe, Ji Tianxing's cold voice suddenly sounded behind him. "Let me see who you are." The black-robed figure's body stiffened and he subconsciously turned his head to look behind him. The moment he turned around, Ji Tianxing appeared beside him like a ghost and reached out to grab him. At the critical moment, the black-robed figure burst forth with all his strength and turned into a cloud of black mist, turning around and fleeing. However, Ji Tianxing grabbed his black robe. As he fled with all his might, the black robe was torn to shreds with a ripping sound. Swoosh! The black robe turned into a few pieces of cloth and scattered into the night sky. The figure of a man who was 7 feet tall and wearing black armor appeared clearly in front of Ji Tianxing. Just as Ji Tianxing had expected, this person was indeed a human male. Moreover, he was a valiant-looking human youth. The man was stunned on the spot. His body froze on the spot as he stared at Ji Tianxing with wide eyes. Ji Tianxing stared at him, and when he saw his face clearly, his eyes widened, revealing an expression of disbelief. This young man's face was dark and purple, with a few swollen pustules. Half of his face had already rotted away, revealing a few pieces of bone that were dripping with poisonous black blood. Even though he had changed beyond recognition and looked extremely ferocious and disgusting. However, when Ji Tianxing saw his eyes, he immediately recognized those cold pupils. He would never forget that the owner of this pair of eyes was a sinister, ruthless, and conceited fellow. Ji Tianxing was stunned for a moment, then suddenly grinned and sneered, his tone full of mockery. I really didn't expect that after disappearing for a year, you would actually sneak into the devil race and associate yourself with the devil race's beasts that are worse than pigs and dog. In order to survive, you are really unscrupulous, third prince. Without a doubt, the human spirit controller wearing black armor with a ferocious face was the third prince, Long Zitian. Long Zitian stared at Ji Tianxing, his eyes filled with deep resentment as he grinned, revealing a row of teeth. He sneered in a low and hoarse voice, "Hey, Ji Tianxing, you must be very pleased to see me in such a state, right? But don't forget, who was the one who caused me to lose my reputation and fall from a noble prince to a prisoner? It was you. It was you, you bastard. And who was the one who wanted to kill me? In the process of escorting me to the border, you sent someone to assassinate me? It was Long Yunxiao, it was that little bastard son of a bitch." Long Zitian's voice was filled with resentment as he roared in a hysterical manner, as if he had gone mad. He was wearing black armor, and his entire body was surrounded by devil chi. At this moment, with such a vicious appearance, he was no different from a devil. Compared to his previous image as a noble prince, it was a far cry from what he had once been. He glared at Ji Tianxing, his eyes almost popping out as he roared in a hoarse voice, "Do you think I want to be the devil race's lackey? Wasn't it all because of you? When Long Yunxiao sent people to kill me, it was the devil race's experts who saved me and healed my injuries. I can't go back to the central region. You and Long Yunxiao are bastards, bastards, you definitely won't let me go, but if I want to live, I can only rely on the devil race. I don't want any dignity or character, I only want to live, I want revenge. From the day I joined the devil race, I lived for revenge. I swear I will use the cruelest and most vicious method to torture you and Long Yunxiao to death." Ji Tianxing looked at him coldly, not saying a word. Facing the crazy Long Zitian, anything he said would be superfluous. When a person doesn't want to be a human, and would rather be a devil, that person is even more terrifying than a devil. Long Zitian laughed hysterically, and said in a hoarse voice, "From the day I joined the devil race, the third prince Long Zitian was already dead. I received the appreciation of the Devil Emperor, and His Majesty the Devil Emperor taught me the spirit-controlling technique. Now, I am the commander of the spirit-controlling masters under the Devil Emperor. I want to turn all the corpses on the battlefield into undead warriors and ghost demons, and follow His Majesty the Devil Emperor's footsteps back to the central region. At that time, I was chased out of the central region, and lost the throne of the Emperor. But, not long after, I will return to the central region, and openly sit on that throne. At that time, you and Long Yunxiao will be like dogs, lying at my feet, wagging your tails, and begging for mercy, ha 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 ha." Speaking up to here, Long Zitian raised his head and laughed. His laughter was as ear-piercing as an owl's. So much so that from his rotting wide mouth, black blood kept flowing out. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing expressionlessly shook his head, and said in a pitiful tone, "The former imperial court prince has fallen to such a state. What's the difference between you and a devil? You should die, so as to not tarnish the imperial court's prestige." The emperor also doesn't want to see his son become the devil emperor's lackey. So, your body and soul should be destroyed, and you will never be able to reincarnate. When his voice fell, he slowly raised his left palm, and a vast amount of magic power accumulated in his palm, shining with a dazzling golden light. He wanted to kill Long Zetian on the spot, and use destruction to end Long Zetian's evil. But, seeing that he was about to make a move, Long Zetian sneered. Ha 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 ha. Ji Tianxing, who do you think you are? You are too arrogant, daring to intrude into the depths of the devil race's camp, and even want to kill me? Dream on. Chapter 1392. Hearing Long Zetian's words, Ji Tianxing's expression didn't change at all. He didn't even need to turn his head to look around to know what had appeared in the night sky around him. Over 100 white ghosts that were hundreds of meters tall and had no legs were floating in the night sky, surrounding Ji Tianxing. The faces of those ghosts were extremely sinister and terrifying. Some had 2 heads, while others had 4 arms. Their fingernails were long and sharp like swords. In addition, there were also over 200 evil spirit skeletons that were as large as small mountains, quietly hiding in the night sky. Each of these ghost skeletons was several hundred feet tall, and was formed from countless skeletons and skulls. Their bodies were surrounded by a dark green light and emitted a powerful aura. They were eyeing Ji Tianxing covetously. In addition, there were also 10 tall and burly demon spirit controllers in black robes who were hiding in the darkness far away. The ghosts and evil spirits surrounding Ji Tianxing were controlled by those spirit controllers. Those 10 spirit controllers and Long Zetian were all at the 2nd or 3rd level of the soul refinement realm. Over 100 ghosts and over 200 evil spirit skeletons were all at the 7th level of the sky origin realm. On the surface, these spirit controllers and ghosts and evil spirits were enough to tear Ji Tianxing to pieces. However, Ji Tianxing ignored those ghosts, evil spirits, and spirit controllers. He stared at Long Zetian indifferently, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a playful sneer. Long Zetian, actually, when we were talking, you secretly sent out a signal to gather these spirit controllers to help you. I know all of this, but I don't care at all. Do you know why? Long Zetian immediately frowned and retracted his sneer. His eyes became serious and cold. Ji Tianxing looked at him with a smile and said slowly, because, in my eyes, all of you are as weak as ant. My strength is beyond your imagination. After saying that, he suddenly raised his palms and formed a sword seal. In an instant, over 100 golden sword lights shot out. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Hundreds of golden sword lights with purple lightning arcs exploded in all directions like fireworks, sweeping across the night sky for 5 kilometers. Immediately, the surrounding hundreds of ghosts, more than 200 evil spirit skeletons, and the 10 spirit controllers were drowned by the overwhelming sword light. Bang 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 bang. A series of loud, muffled noises exploded, reverberating fiercely in the night sky. Long Zetian watched with his own eyes as those ghosts and skeletons were sliced into pieces by the sword light, and then shattered and dissipated by the lightning arcs. After 3 breaths, the dazzling sword light and thunder light dissipated. The night sky within a radius of 10 miles returned to darkness. However, the night sky became empty. All the spirits, evil spirits, and skeletons had been wiped out. Even the 10 spirit controllers hiding in the distance were unable to resist at all. They were instantly killed on the spot, their bodies and souls destroyed. Long Zetian was completely dumbfounded. His eyes widened in shock as he stared at Ji Tianxing. You. How could you be like this? The scene just now was too shocking. It had already reached a terrifying level, leaving Long Zetian dumbstruck. He was so scared that his soul was trembling. Even if he saw it with his own eyes, he still couldn't believe that Ji Tianxing, who had once been beaten to the point of fleeing in a sorry state, had actually grown to such an extent in just over a year. This was simply too dreamy. Just as he was in a daze, Ji Tianxing had already used his ultimate move again, smashing a punch at him from 1,000 meters away. Long Zetian, it's time for everything to end. Star-shattering fist. Ji Tianxing's right fist burst out with a dark golden fist like the size of a millstone. It instantly cut through 1,000 meters of the night sky and struck Long Zetian. The speed of that punch was extremely fast, comparable to the aurora. Long Zai Tian couldn't react at all, let alone dodge. Bang! The huge golden fist light instantly blasted him into pieces, causing a dull sound to ring out. Even though he was wearing a soul tool armor, he still couldn't block this devastating punch. The black armor was the same as his body, collapsing into 108,000 pieces, scattering in the night sky. His head and divine soul were also smashed into smithereens, vanishing on the spot. A gust of biting cold northern wind blew past, blowing the pieces of flesh and blood that filled the sky, scattering them between the mountains and rivers below. However, that huge dark golden fist light hadn't dissipated yet. The power of the fist light didn't decrease in the slightest. It blasted out another 30 miles, fiercely smashing into a 10,000-meter tall mountain. Boom! In the loud sound, the dark brown 10,000-meter tall mountain collapsed on the spot, bursting out dust that covered the sky and turned into ruins. I only used 40% of my strength, and it's already so powerful. If I use my full strength, the power of the star-shattering fist is enough to injure an essence soul powerhouse. Ji Tianxing was very satisfied with the power of the star-shattering fist and slowly withdrew his fist. He turned his head and looked around, wanting to dive into the depths of the ground to find the altar and blood pool. However, the fight between him and Long Zaitian had already alarmed the surrounding demon army. At least 100 Heaven Origin Realm Demon Kings and 4 Soul Refinement Realm Blood Gods rushed over from all directions. In the pitch-black clouds high in the sky, there were also 5 blood-red eyeballs that were all aimed at him. Swish, swish, swish. The 5 dark red eyeballs instantly unleashed dozens of dark red, blood-colored light beams that shot straight at him. Boom, 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 boom. Ji Tianxing didn't have time to use the divine concealment step to dodge, and he was hit by the dozens of dark red light pillars. His figure was drowned in the bloody light that filled the sky. The terrifying impact shattered his magic power shield and blasted him straight down from the sky, smashing heavily into a mountain. Kaboom! Following a loud explosion that shook the heavens, the 10,000-meter tall mountain was smashed into pieces on the spot, bursting out dirt and rocks all over the sky. Ji Tianxing was lying in the pit in a somewhat sorry state. He struggled for a while before he got up. His body lit up with a layer of golden light, and he circulated his energy to shake off the dust on his body. He looked up at the blood-red eyeballs in the night sky and couldn't help but curse. That bastard ancient demon emperor created those eyeballs. Not only can they monitor the demon camp, but they are also an essence soul realm array that can release such a terrifying attack. Fortunately, his physical body had been tempered, and his defense was extremely strong, comparable to a second-level essence soul realm expert. Those dozens of dark red light pillars that blasted him didn't cause any substantial damage to him. It only caused him to be unable to circulate his magic power smoothly, temporarily preventing him from using his full strength. He activated the power of the Heaven Mending Pearl and quickly cleared the remaining dark red light in his body. Soon, he was back to normal. At this moment, the demon experts from all directions rushed over like a tidal wave and surrounded him. He had a difficult mission and didn't want to be entangled with those demon experts. Thus, he used the divine concealment step to escape the encirclement. Swish! In just a few breaths, he flew 100 miles away and landed on a 10,000-meter tall mountain. Chapter 1393. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing entered the dark brown mountain peak in an invisible state. In order not to attract the attention of the devil experts, he slowed down and retracted his soul and magic power aura. He shuttled through the dark mountain peak and dived into the depths of the ground. About 100 breaths later, he passed through the mountain peak and dived 5 kilometers underground. The gloomy underground was filled with winding passageways. Many devil caves were built in the surroundings, and hundreds of thousands of devil soldiers were stationed there. Ji Tianxing carefully avoided those devil caves, avoiding the detection and surveillance of the devil experts, and continued to dive into the depths of the ground. While rushing to the primogenitor altar, he was still calculating in his heart, Devil Marshal Dark Knight, Devil Marshal Broken Soul, and the rest are no match for the Emperor Lord and the Imperial Tutor. Those dozen or so soul refinement realm experts will soon be killed by the Emperor Lord. The two venerables guarding the devil camp will definitely not sit by and watch Devil Marshal Dark Knight and the rest be killed. They will definitely join hands to deal with the Emperor Lord. In this way, the primogenitor altar's defensive power will be empty, and I will have a chance to destroy the altar and that divine body. The Emperor Lord would personally participate in the battle to deal with the top devil experts and restrain the two primordial soul realm venerables. Ji Tianxing would take the opportunity to dive into the ground and destroy the primogenitor altar. This was one of the Emperor Lord's plans. It looked perfect and easy to succeed. However, just as these thoughts flashed through Ji Tianxing's mind, a low and cold voice suddenly sounded in his ears. This venerable has been waiting for you for a long time. You damned human reptile, how dare you sneak into our camp? This cold snort filled with killing intent seemed to be able to penetrate one's soul and directly resound in Ji Tianxing's mind. Ji Tianxing's body immediately stiffened. He restrained his aura to the extreme and searched for the other party's figure. Who is it? He actually discovered my tracks and directly transmitted his voice to me. His expression was very solemn as he thought to himself doubtfully. At this moment, the black rock layer below shattered with a bang. Suddenly, more than a dozen blood-red lights shot out and pierced towards him at lightning speed. It was a long spear condensed from 12 streaks of bloody light. Its power was violent and indestructible, and it instantly enveloped his figure. He didn't even have time to defend himself before he was pierced by the blood-red spear. Peng peng peng. A series of muffled sounds echoed in the dark underground. Dazzling crimson light burst forth, illuminating the area within a radius of 10,000 feet, transforming it into a world of crimson light. The hard rock layer was blasted to pieces. The surrounding ground and the mountain peak above began to shake violently, and dense cracks began to appear. Ji Tianxing was sent flying backward in a sorry state. He smashed hard into the rock layer thousands of feet away, creating 100 feet deep crater and splashing out countless rocks and dirt. However, his physical defense was strong, and he only suffered some minor injuries. He immediately flew out of the rubble. PFFF, as soon as he steadied himself, his expression changed and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Damn it! Not only did this person see through my divine concealment step, he could also attack me silently and injure me. This person is definitely an immortal soul powerhouse. He could immediately conclude that the person who attacked him was definitely an immortal soul powerhouse who was stronger than the two supremacies. Since he had already exposed himself, he might as well not hide anymore. He conjured a protective shield and spread his golden wings. At this moment, that cold and sinister voice sounded in his mind again. Ha ha, you overconfident worm. Tonight, you will definitely die. Along with this voice, another large hole appeared in the rock layer behind Ji Tianxing, and 3 dark red beams of light suddenly flew out of it. Peng peng peng. Ji Tianxing couldn't dodge in time. He was once again hit by the 3 pillars of light and was sent flying again. The ruins immediately expanded from a radius of 10,000 feet to a radius of 10 miles. The violent impact of the explosion caused the surrounding ground to shake violently. It was as if a super earthquake had occurred. The 10,000 feet tall mountain on the ground was also unable to bear the heavy burden and collapsed with a series of cracking sounds. Luckily, Ji Tianxing was protected by the protective shield and wasn't hurt by the 3 pillars of light. Damn it! That fellow is hiding deep underground, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. I can't detect its tracks at all. If I continue to stay underground, I can only passively take a beating without any ability to retaliate. After all, this is the main camp of the Devil race, a camp specially built by the Devil King. These thoughts flashed through his mind as he hurriedly flew out of the ruins and towards the surface. However, he had only flown a few miles when 6 dark red giant claws emerged from the rock layer on his left and right and slapped towards him. He was already prepared. He decisively closed his wings and protected himself. Peng peng peng. The golden wings were hit by the giant claws and let out a series of muffled sounds. They trembled violently and flashed with golden light. Ji Tianxing was unscathed. He took the opportunity to burrow out of the ground and fly into the night sky. In the dark night sky that was shrouded in bloody light, Numerous devil race experts and specters were flying back and forth, searching for him. The earth-shattering commotion just now had already alarmed a large number of devil race guards and powerhouses. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing hurriedly used the spirit concealment step and quickly flew 10,000 feet into the sky. He hid in a demonic cloud and observed the situation around him. He silently analyzed, even Supremacy Bloodbath and Supremacy Demon Blood are only at the 3rd level of the Essence Soul realm. If I fight them, I might have a chance of defeating them. However, the person who ambushed me is clearly stronger than the 2 supremacies. He's at least at the 4th level of the Essence Soul realm. In the Devil Race's main camp, the only one stronger than the 2 supremacies seems to be the Devil King's mount, the Nether-suppressing Soul Beast. Ji Tianqing calmly thought for a moment and guessed the identity of the ambusher. He held the Sword of Burial of Heaven and was on high alert. He opened the divine eye of lightning on his forehead and carefully scanned the night sky. The next moment, his divine eye of lightning clearly saw a black shadow the size of a mountain lurking in the demonic cloud 5 kilometers away in the night sky. From the silhouette of the black shadow, it was clearly a black behemoth that was 10,000 feet long and had 2 heads. The behemoth's head was flat like a python's head. Its long neck was covered in black scales. Its body was like that of a male lion, extremely sturdy and strong. Its body was covered in black fur and surrounded by blue soul fire. The beast had 2 pairs of gigantic black wings and 8 thick legs. Each of its hooves was surrounded by cold black flames. Ji Tianqing immediately recognized that the ferocious-looking behemoth was the legendary Nether-suppressing Soul Beast. Furthermore, the Nether-suppressing Soul Beast was in a stealthy state. Its aura was extremely restrained as it silently hid in the black clouds. Ji Tianqing could not detect its existence with his naked eye and soul power. Only his divine eye of lightning could see the Nether-suppressing Soul Beast. Chapter 1394. The Nether-suppressing Soul Beast was very vigilant. It hid in the dark demonic clouds, secretly watching Ji Tianqing, ready to attack at any time. When it saw Ji Tianqing open his divine eye of thunder and look at it, it realized that it had been exposed. Without hesitation, it opened its bloody mouth and spat out 3 green, dark blue, and blood-red fire pillars that poured down towards Ji Tianqing. Moreover, it rushed to Ji Tianqing as fast as the aurora, waving its giant claws and opening its mouth full of fangs to tear him to pieces. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing held the Sword of Burial of Heaven and used all his strength to slash at the Nether-suppressing Soul Beast. Swing! A huge crescent-shaped sword light tore the dark night sky apart like a thunderbolt. The sword light that was thousands of feet long collided with the 3 fire pillars of different colors, creating a few earth-shattering explosions. Bang! 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 The 3 fire pillars of different colors were shattered by the sword light on the spot. They turned into waves of fire that covered the sky and the earth, sweeping across a radius of dozens of miles. The power of the huge sword light was also exhausted, breaking into a dozen pieces and collapsing immediately. Then, the Nether-suppressing Soul Beast rushed to Ji Tianqing, its flat bloody mouth covering Ji Tianqing's figure. However, Ji Tianqing was already prepared. He immediately used the Divinity Concealment Step and teleported 20 miles away, narrowly avoiding the attack. The Nether-suppressing Soul Beast was stunned for a moment, then it also used the teleportation technique. Its huge body turned into a black light and chased after him. It raised a pair of huge front claws and slapped at Ji Tianqing. Its sharp nails seemed to be able to break through all defenses. Ji Tianqing held the Sword of Burial of Heaven and stabbed at its huge claws with all his strength. Stab! A cold light suddenly appeared, and then it exploded in its giant claw. Bang! The dazzling sword light exploded like a mushroom cloud, engulfing the Nether-suppressing Soul Beast's body with purple lightning. A deafening sound reverberated through the night sky. The formless sound waves traveled hundreds of miles. Ji Tianqing thought that his ultimate move would be able to shatter the Nether-suppressing Soul Beast's giant claw. However, when the dazzling sword light and lightning light dissipated, the Nether-suppressing Soul Beast appeared in the night sky unharmed. It was indeed injured. There was a large bloody hole in its left front claw, revealing its bones and flesh. Purple demonic blood continuously spilled out. In addition, The fur all over its body was charred black and curled up, leaving behind traces of being struck by lightning. It looked rather miserable. However, this injury was only a minor injury to the netherworld soul-suppressing beast. It did not affect its movement and fighting. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing frowned and muttered with a grave expression, "Damn it. This nether-suppressing soul beast's strength is stronger than I imagined." The 9 swords of the burial of heaven was his ultimate move, one of the most powerful sword techniques. However, the ultimate move he used with all his strength could only lightly injure the nether-suppressing soul beast. How could he not be shocked? Of course, he also understood that the difference between the soul refinement realm and the essence spirit realm was huge. They were 2 completely different realms. With his strength at the 9th level of the soul refinement realm, it was already unbelievable that he could injure the nether-suppressing soul beast. "Ji Tianqing, you lowly reptile. Bastard. Ever since I woke up from the blood river, I have never been injured. You actually injured me. You are dead meat. Tonight, no one will be able to save you. I will tear you to shreds and dismember your corpse into 1,000 pieces." The nether-suppressing soul beast stared coldly at Ji Tianqing. Its tone was cold and resentful. As its voice fell, it flapped its 2 pairs of black wings and brandished its giant claws. It struck out ancient and mysterious demonic seals and used an ancient secret technique. 9 Hell Blade Art. A moment later, the nether-suppressing soul beast formed 99 seals. The surrounding dozens of miles were illuminated by bloody and purple light. The vast spiritual power, the brilliant purple and bloody light, and the 99 seals immediately condensed into 9 giant purple blades that were thousands of feet long. They floated above the nether-suppressing soul beast's head. "Ji Tianqing, your time of death has come. Despair." The nether-suppressing soul beast stared coldly at Ji Tianqing and revealed a sinister sneer. As soon as it finished speaking, the first 9 underworld blades slashed towards Ji Tianqing with a deathly cold aura that covered the sky and earth. The dark purple giant blade seemed to have come from the 9 hells. It contained a terrifying cold aura and the power to destroy all living things. Before the blade light landed, Ji Tianqing's surroundings were sealed by an invisible aura of death. It was almost frozen. He wanted to use the divine concealment step to dodge, but he found that his spiritual power was circulating very slowly. Even his blood seemed to be frozen. His movement speed was also several times slower. There was no way he could dodge the attack of the giant purple blade. In desperation, he could only wield the sword of burial of heaven and use all his strength to slash out a dazzling cold light to meet the giant blade. "Draw your sword." The blazing white sword light that was thousands of feet long slashed at the giant purple blade with a loud bang. The 2 collapsed at the same time, exploding into pieces that blotted out the sky and splashed in all directions. Countless dark purple shards scattered in the night sky within a radius of 50 kilometers. They actually condensed into a thin layer of light that sealed off this part of the night sky. Ji Tianqing vaguely felt that the light purple light shield exuded an invisible suppressive power. Fortunately, he blocked the first slash of the nether-suppressing soul beast. He had no time to escape or deal with the light purple light shield. The nether-suppressing soul beast had already slashed out a second time. Die. The dark purple blade light that was thousands of feet long slashed through the night sky with an even more powerful force and arrived above Ji Tianqing's head. Although, on the surface, this blade light looked no different from the first slash. But he could clearly feel that the power of this slash was twice as strong as the first one. At this critical moment, he did not hesitate to use his ultimate move. Holding the sword of burial of heaven with both hands, he swung it at the nether-suppressing soul beast. "Ask the heavens." Following his angry roar, the sword of burial of heaven burst out with endless golden light and condensed into a giant golden sword that was thousands of feet long. The giant sword swept out, tearing through the dark night sky and instantly hitting the dark purple blade light. Bang! With a loud bang, the blade light and the giant golden sword collapsed at the same time, exploding into countless pieces that splashed in all directions. The dark purple shards attached themselves to the light barrier in a 25-kilometer radius, doubling the power of the light barrier and darkening its color. Noticing this change, Ji Tianqing immediately frowned as a bad premonition arose in his heart. Damn it. The nether-suppressing soul beast used a total of 9 slashes, and each slash is twice as strong as the previous one. Won't the 9th slash be 9 times as strong? Even if I can block the first few slashes, I definitely can't block the 8th and 9th slashes. Chapter 1395. Just as Ji Tianxing was secretly anxious, the 3rd slash came down with a loud bang. Before the dark purple blade light slashed down, an invisible suppressive force had already enveloped Ji Tianxing. The cold air of death was bone-chilling. It almost froze his blood and made his divine soul a little dizzy and blurry. He hurriedly activated the heaven-mending orb in his mind and released a sacred white light. It circulated in his body and dispersed the cold air of death. The 9-hell blade was about to hit his head. At the critical moment, he used all his strength again and performed a secret sword technique. Soul Slash. He shouted and summoned the 9 divine soul spell swords in his mind. They turned into 9 giant swords of white light that were thousands of feet long and slashed at the 9-hell blade. Bam 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 bam. There was another series of muffled sounds. The 9-hell blade was shattered on the spot. Endless purple light shards splashed in all directions and quickly merged into the purple light shield. Instantly, the purple light shield's power doubled and its color became even more intense. The invisible suppressive force made Ji Tianxing feel like he was in a quagmire. He almost couldn't breathe and couldn't move. Then, the 4th 9-hell blade exploded with an even more terrifying power and slashed down at him. I don't believe that you can block this blade. The nether-suppressing soul beast used all its strength to cast a spell. It roared in a low voice and its body burst with murderous intent. Ji Tianxing became more and more anxious, but he had to use his ultimate move to block the 4th blade that was even more terrifying. Cold of the Sea. He formed a sword technique with his left hand and held the sword of burial of heaven with his right hand. He used all his strength to slash at the nether-suppressing soul beast. The dazzling sword light cut through the night sky and brought with it an overwhelming cold brilliance. It froze everything within dozens of miles. Kaboom! In a deafening sound, the huge sword light and the 9-hell blade collided and exploded at the same time. This time, Ji Tianxing was prepared. While the blade light shards merged into the purple light shield, he reached out his left hand and released a destructive golden divine flame. God-slaying spear. As he shouted, endless golden divine flames spewed out of his left palm. They condensed into a 30-meter-long golden divine spear and stabbed at the netherworld soul-suppressing beast. The nether-suppressing soul beast was infuriated when it saw Ji Tianxing blocking 4 consecutive 9 underworld blades. It was preparing for the 5th slash. However, the sudden attack of the god-slaying spear caught it off guard. Both of its eyes were filled with anger. However, the golden divine spear released an extremely sharp aura. Its power was also unparalleled, as if it could pierce through all obstacles. No matter how strong the nether-subduing soul beast was, it was still shocked and frightened by this. Die. It made a prompt decision to stop accumulating power and desperately slashed out the 5th slash. The might of this strike was 5 times stronger than the first strike. It was enough to instantly kill a 2nd firmament essence soul realm expert. However, when the dark purple blade light collided with the god-slaying spear, an unbelievable scene occurred. Crack! With a crisp cracking sound, the dark purple 9 underworld blade was pierced through by the god-slaying spear. It exploded into countless fragments and splashed in all directions. The god-slaying spear's power did not decrease at all. It pierced the nether-subduing soul beast's left front hoof with a dull thud. Suddenly, golden divine flames erupted and engulfed the nether-subduing soul beast within a 10-mile radius. Purple blood splattered amidst the golden divine flames. Countless pieces of flesh and bone flew in all directions. When the golden divine flames that lit up the night sky dissipated, the nether-subduing soul beast's figure appeared again. It was still alive. Even the god-slaying spear could not kill it on the spot. However, its huge and thick left front hoof, together with its entire leg, had disappeared without a trace. The remaining golden divine flames had entered its body through the wound and were still burning its flesh and bone marrow. It was in so much pain that it wanted to die. After suffering such a serious injury, the nether-subduing soul beast was naturally enraged. It ignored its injuries and roared angrily. Its 4 eyes were spewing blood-red flames of anger. Ji Tianqing. You bastard. I will not kill you easily. I will capture you and torture you for thousands of years. I will let you die in extreme pain. However, Ji Tianqing had already turned and fled when it was hit by the god-slaying spear. He did his best to escape to the edge of the purple light shield. He was swinging the sword of burial of heaven and slashing at the purple light shield. The nether-subduing soul beast hurriedly rushed over and released the remaining 4 hellblades at once. They slashed at Ji Tianqing. Little bastard, go to hell. 4 3,000-meter-long purple blade lights, carrying a dark and terrifying aura of death, exploded with destructive power and instantly slashed at Ji Tianqing's head. At the critical moment, his expression changed. He hurriedly spread his golden wings and wrapped himself. Bam 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 bam. The 4 hell blades hit the golden wings one after another. A series of muffled sounds rang out. Ji Tianqing was sent flying on the spot. He slammed into the purple light shield and made a dent in it. Dense cracks appeared on the purple light shield. The golden wings had lost more than half of their power. The light became much dimmer. Ji Tianqing was also dizzy from the impact. Even his soul was a little dizzy. Fortunately, the golden wings blocked the 4 underworld sabers and shattered the purple saber light. He did not suffer any substantial damage. His combat strength was still strong. His soul was dizzy for a moment. He quickly recovered. He held the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and slashed at the purple light shield with all his strength. Sky-splitting sword. This was the strongest sword he had used all his strength to perform. Its power was extraordinary. The blazing white sword light, hundreds of meters long, slashed at the cracked dent and made a loud noise. Crack. The purple light barrier, which already had cracks in it, was immediately sliced open by the sword light, creating a huge gap. Ji Tianqing's figure flashed and flew out of the hole. He broke free of the nether-suppressing soul beast's secret technique and returned to the night sky. He looked at the distant sky and observed the situation on the battlefield. He saw more than 20 soul refinement realm experts fighting fiercely in the night sky 300 kilometers away. These experts were divided into 2 groups. One group was the demon race experts led by Demon Marshal Dark Knight. There were about 14 of them. There were several demon marshals and demon race experts. There were also 9 soul refinement realm blood gods. The other party was the human experts led by the Imperial Preceptor, including the 7 commanders who had participated in the battle. On the mountains and rivers under the feet of these experts, millions of human soldiers were fighting bravely. Millions of Devil Race soldiers also surged out of the Devil Race's encampment and launched a fierce attack, temporarily blocking the human army's attack. Even farther away in the night sky, 2 enormous balls of dazzling bloodlight were attacking an expert in golden robes. Chapter 1396. Ji Tianqing was no stranger to both the demon race and the human race's experts. He only needed to take a few glances to see the situation on the battlefield clearly. His heart immediately jumped, and a look of worry and anxiety flashed across his eyes. Demon General Dark Knight's side had more than a dozen experts in the soul-refining realm. Among them, there were 9 blood gods illusions that were almost immortal. Although the human race's experts were led by the Imperial Tutor, there were too few of them. They were definitely outnumbered. They didn't have a powerful secret technique and couldn't do anything to the 9 blood gods' illusions. Ji Tianqing saw with his own eyes that the Imperial Tutor waved his horsetail whisk with all his strength and used a powerful secret technique to sweep out more than a dozen dazzling white lights. Bang! 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 The dazzling lights were like giant blades that could split the sky. They slashed the 4 blood gods' illusions and exploded with earth-shattering sounds. The 4 blood gods' illusions were cut into several pieces. Bloody light burst out and scattered in the night sky. However, in the blink of an eye, the bloody light in the sky gathered together and reformed into 4 giant beasts and bloody giants. They laughed proudly and released dark green poisonous gas and black poisonous fog that filled the sky and poured down on the battlefield below. Immediately, the billowing poisonous gas and fog spread out and affected hundreds of thousands of human soldiers. In just a few breaths, the hundreds of thousands of human soldiers festered and turned into pus and blood. They wailed miserably and fell to the ground. Soon, they were corroded into white bones. Their blood chi and soul essence gathered into a bloody fog in the night sky and was quickly devoured by the four blood gods' illusions. After devouring a large amount of blood chi and soul essence, the four blood gods' illusions recovered from their injuries. Their strength even increased a bit. They attacked the Imperial Tutor and the others even more fiercely. The Imperial Tutor and the commanders were immediately forced to retreat. They could only defend themselves tiredly. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing didn't need to guess to know the result. In the end, the human race's experts would definitely be defeated. This was predestined. Between the land and mountains within a radius of 1,000 miles, the battle between the armies of the two clans was also extremely tragic and bloody. The battle cries of countless soldiers, the heart-wrenching screams, and the clashing noises of weapons interweaved into an invisible torrent of sound waves that reverberated in the night sky for thousands of miles, deafening everyone. Every moment, hundreds to thousands of people died. They died in all kinds of tragic ways, lying in pools of blood. The lucky ones were still left with a whole corpse, but most of the soldiers were dismembered into 8 pieces with their heads separated from their bodies. The mountains, rivers, and earth were all soaked in bright red or purple blood. Rivers of blood formed on the ground, and corpses piled up like mountains. It was so tragic that it was like hell on earth. But the human race only had 6 million soldiers, while the demon race had nearly 20 million soldiers, 3 times more than the human race. As time passed, the human army's numbers continued to dwindle. However, one army after another rushed out of the devil race's main camp and charged into the battlefield with murderous looks on their faces. In just a few dozen breaths of time, the number of the devil race army increased from more than 5 million to more than 8 million, and it was still increasing. The difference in numbers between the two sides was getting wider and wider, and the outcome was naturally destined. The only person Ji Tianxing was not worried about was the Emperor. With the Emperor's powerful strength and methods, as well as his powerful divine weapon, he would definitely be able to deal with the 2 primordial soul realm blood gods. Even if he did not control the divine lightning and could not completely kill the blood gods, he would definitely not be at a disadvantage. However, just as these thoughts flashed through Ji Tianxing's mind, the battlefield suddenly changed. Boom! 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 With a series of loud explosions, the surroundings of a 1,000-foot mountain suddenly lit up with a bloody light that shot into the sky. The dazzling bloody light condensed into a dozen huge pillars of light that blasted towards the Emperor in the sky like meteors. The power of each blood-colored pillar of light was comparable to the full-strength attack of an primordial soul realm expert. It was so powerful that it could destroy the world. The blood-colored pillars of light blasted into the sky and immediately drowned the Emperor's figure. While the Emperor was dealing with the 2 blood gods, he also had to use a secret technique to block the attacks of the pillars of light. Immediately, he was surrounded by danger and looked a little pathetic. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing's expression changed immediately, and he hurriedly lowered his head to look at the battlefield below. He saw that there were hundreds of thousands of devil race soldiers around the pitch-black mountain. They were densely packed and had surrounded the entire mountain. He could tell at a glance that the formation of the devil race soldiers had a special pattern and mystery. It seemed to have formed a huge array. At least 500,000 devil race soldiers worked together to activate a huge array, forming a blood-colored light shield that covered a radius of 100 miles and enveloped the entire mountain. Ji Tianxing observed for a while before he saw some clues. It was an ancient and mysterious devil race battle array that could gather the power of 500,000 soldiers and release a power that was comparable to that of an primordial soul realm expert. Damn it! Not only are the 2 supremacies besieging the Emperor, but there are also 500,000 soldiers. The Emperor will not be able to escape. He secretly clenched his fists and muttered to himself worriedly. At this moment, more than 20 dazzling blood-colored lights lit up in the dark clouds high in the sky. He looked up and saw more than 20 blood-colored eyeballs releasing dark red light at the same time. They condensed into more than 20 blood-colored dragon shadows that charged towards the Emperor. Those blood-colored eyeballs were the primordial soul realm array set up by the ancient fiend Emperor. Not only could it monitor the devil race camp, but it also had powerful offensive and defensive powers. However, Ji Tianxing did not expect that not only were the two supremacies besieging the emperor, but the 500,000 devil race soldiers would also use a battle array to assist the two supremacies in attacking the emperor. Even the Blood Eye array set up by the Fiend Emperor also launched an attack at the emperor. The two supremacies, the 500,000 devil race soldiers, and dozens of blood-colored eyeballs besieged the emperor from all directions. They looked like they would not give up until they killed him. No matter how powerful the emperor was, he was forced to dodge continuously and fell into a passive state. All in all, the human army was in a very bad situation. From the commander-in-chief to the top experts, to the battle between the armies, they were clearly at a disadvantage. Ji Tianxing was anxious. He immediately wanted to rush to the battlefield to help the imperial tutor and the other commander-in-chief. However, he had just flown 5 kilometers when a blinding blood-colored light lit up in the night sky in front of him. It was like a blood-red shooting star that came crashing towards him. Bam! He instinctively used his sword to block in front of him, but he was immediately hit by the blood-colored shooting star and was sent flying in a sorry state. While he was still flying in the air, he spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned ghastly pale. When he finally stabilized himself after flying for more than 10 kilometers, he realized that there were several bloody wounds on his chest and arms. Black smoke curled up from the bloody wounds. His flesh had also been corroded by the powerful demonic qi and turned black and festered. He used the heaven-mending orb to remove the demonic qi from his wounds while looking forward. He saw the nether-suppressing soul beast standing 10,000 feet in front of him, staring at him with a sinister smile. Chapter 1397. You're really persistent. Ji Tianxing frowned at the appearance of the nether-suppressing soul beast and cursed in a cold tone. At this moment, he saw the situation on the battlefield and was very worried. He just wanted to go to the battlefield as soon as possible to help the imperial tutor and the emperor, and save the human army. It didn't matter who won or lost against the nether-suppressing soul beast. He knew very well that the rash attack of the human army this time was destined to end in defeat. Retreating to Heaven Dragon Pass as soon as possible was the wisest choice. At least they could minimize the casualties. If this continued, the human side would definitely suffer heavy casualties, and it was even possible that they would be completely annihilated. But the nether-suppressing soul beast didn't care about anyone and just stared at him, not giving him a chance to escape. This infuriated him greatly, and his killing intent soared to the heavens. He stared coldly at the nether-suppressing soul beast and said in a low voice, "Bastard, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." As he spoke, he waved his hands and formed a seal, releasing his strongest power to release a killing move. Great Freedom Soul Destruction Cut. The golden sword of Divine Soul and the 9 magic swords of Divine Soul in his mind immediately began to spin, releasing Divine Soul power that was as violent as the waves of the sea. Endless Divine Soul power gathered into 2 invisible Divine Soul blades and slashed at the nether-suppressing soul beast with the power to split the heavens and earth. Go to hell! In just a moment, the 2 Divine Soul blades cut through the night sky and slashed at the nether-suppressing soul beast. Bang bang! At the Divine Soul level, there were 2 earth-shattering explosions. An invisible shockwave immediately spread out and swept across a radius of 300 miles. Those Sky Origin stage human and demon clan cultivators were all hit by the blast wave. They all fell to the ground like dumplings in a pot. The first Divine Soul sword pierced through the nether-suppressing soul beast's body and slashed at its primordial spirit. However, its primordial spirit was extremely strong and indestructible. The Divine Soul sword broke and collapsed on the spot. The second Divine Soul sword then slashed at its primordial spirit. Even so, it still managed to block the attack and shatter the Divine Soul sword. However, its primordial spirit flickered with bloody light, producing a crack. Its consciousness that was shaken up became a bit blurry. The nether-suppressing soul beast didn't care about such minor injuries at all. The dizziness only lasted for a blink of an eye before it quickly returned to normal. But this was exactly what Ji Tianxing wanted. While the nether-suppressing soul beast was dazed, Qin Lai unleashed his true killing move. Burial of Heaven's 9 swords, the 4th sword. Heaven Breaker. Ji Tianxing gripped his sword with both hands with a solemn expression. He let out a low growl in a dignified tone and slashed out fiercely. Suddenly, a 3,000-meter-long blazing white sword appeared. It was wrapped in a layer of dazzling purple lightning and slashed at the nether-suppressing soul beast. Boom! A massive explosion that shook the heavens exploded in the night sky, immediately spreading for several hundred li. Countless soldiers felt dizzy and staggered to the ground. The blazing white light exploded and spread out like fireworks, illuminating half the night sky. The dazzling purple lightning was like a crisscrossing lightning net that wrapped around the nether-suppressing soul beast, crackling and flashing. The terrifying force of the impact sent it flying back. It flew for hundreds of li in the night sky before it crashed into a 3,000-meter-tall mountain and stopped. The mountain peak collapsed on the spot, shattering into pieces and splattering earth and rocks all over the sky. The nether-suppressing soul beast fell into the ruins, buried by endless dust and temporarily motionless. A wide bloody groove had been created between its two heads by the giant sword. Hundreds of its bones were also broken. Dark purple demonic blood gushed out of the wound like a flood breaking through a dam. It was heavily injured and in extreme pain. It let out a furious roar from its mouth. Ji Tianxing put away the burial of heaven with a solemn expression. He hurriedly took out a few pills and swallowed them, quickly adjusting his breathing. This sword was the fourth sword of the burial of heaven's 9 swords. When he was cultivating in seclusion in the imperial palace, he had cultivated for 2 years. Most of the time, he was comprehending and cultivating the secret arts taught by the palace master and the others. But in the last 3 months, while he was cultivating the sword Soul Dao, the burial of heaven also taught him the fourth sword. It only took him 2 months to completely comprehend the fourth sword and successfully cultivate it. Tonight was the first time he used the fourth sword, the sky-breaking style. The effect of this sword technique was very obvious, and he was quite pleased. He adjusted his breathing for a moment and did not pursue the nether-suppressing soul beast. He held the burial of heaven and was about to turn and leave. However, the nether-suppressing soul beast's strength was beyond his imagination. Whoosh! In the night sky 10 li behind him, a bloody light suddenly lit up. It quickly condensed into 36 blades of light and attacked as fast as the aurora. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Each bloody blade of light was like a crescent-shaped saber. They were hundreds of meters long and incomparably sharp. The 36 blades of light were arranged in a special formation. They contained the invisible power of the formation and immediately enveloped Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing was suppressed by the power of the formation, and his flying speed was reduced by several times. He could not escape the blades of light at all. Helpless, he could only suppress his anger and killing intent and use his ultimate move to resist. 9 swords as the root, divine lightning as the bone, tribulation fire as the complement, divine lightning sword domain. He muttered something under his breath as his hands formed a mysterious seal. Golden light and purple lightning filled the sky. 9 blazing white soul spirit swords flew out of his mind and turned into dazzling giant swords. They flew in all directions and landed in the night sky dozens of li away. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. With the 9 soul spirit swords as the foundation, golden light and lightning flashed wildly and covered the sky. A golden sword domain that covered 80 li in radius was formed in an instant. The dark golden light shield was mixed with dense purple lightning. Electric arcs flashed and released a terrifying pressure. The invisible power of the domain suppressed 80 li of heaven and earth. This area was already under Ji Tianxing's control. In this divine lightning sword domain, his combat strength was at least doubled. The strength of the nether-suppressing soul beast was of course affected and suppressed, and weakened a little. Bang bang bang! When the 36 bloody blades of light hit Ji Tianxing, their speed had decreased a lot, and their power had weakened a lot. Ji Tianxing's body trembled and his face turned pale, but he did not suffer any substantial damage. He was knocked back thousands of meters before he stopped. He stood in the void, holding the sword of burial of heaven, and stared coldly at the nether-suppressing soul beast. The nether-suppressing soul beast also stood in the night sky, facing him from 10 li away. It looked at the divine lightning sword domain and felt the terrifying power of the sword domain. Its pupils shrank, and it sneered in a low voice, "I didn't expect a little bastard like you to have such a strange domain." Ji Tianxing snorted coldly, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a cold sneer. Bastard, this is the first time I've used the sword domain since I mastered it. Chapter 1398. Ever since Ji Tianxing mastered the divine lightning sword domain, he had never really used it. He was very confident in the power of the divine lightning sword domain. He believed that with the power of the domain, he could fight the nether-suppressing soul beast to a draw. He could even defeat the nether-suppressing soul beast. When the nether-suppressing soul beast heard his words, it showed a disdainful look and sneered in a mocking tone. Little worm, you are so arrogant and ignorant. I have lived for several thousand years. My magic power is boundless, and my divine abilities are vast. I can connect the heavens above and the underworld below. How could you possibly imagine? You dare to say that you can kill me with this little trick of yours? What a joke. The nether-suppressing soul beast had an extraordinary origin. Like the ancient demon emperor, it was the most talented powerhouse of the demon race in the past 10,000 years. Ji Tianxing had fought with it for so long and deeply felt that it was not like a demonic beast, but more like a top powerhouse comparable to the demon emperor. Which demonic beast could have such wisdom and methods, and also mastered all kinds of demon Dao secret techniques? Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing used all his strength to control the divine lightning sword domain and released the most powerful killing move. 10,000 Sword Strike. The divine lightning sword domain with a radius of 80 miles suddenly became like a whirlpool, crazily devouring the heaven and earth spirit chi in the surrounding hundreds of miles. In the dark golden light shield, tens of thousands of golden sword lights instantly condensed, stabbing at the nether-suppressing soul beast from all directions like a rain of arrows. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In just an instant, the huge nether-suppressing soul beast was drowned by the sky full of sword lights. Each sword light was 30 meters long, and its power was violent, and its aura was sharp. Tens of thousands of sword lights weaved into a huge golden sword light net, tightly wrapping around the nether-suppressing soul beast and strangling it rapidly. The sword lights hit its body covered with scales, a series of muffled sounds constantly echoing in the sword domain. Each sword light would leave a shallow mark on the nether-suppressing soul beast's body. Then, the sword light shattered into pieces and burst out. In just a few breaths of time, the nether-suppressing soul beast was covered in wounds from the thousands of sword lights. There were dozens of new wounds all over its body, and dark purple blood spurted out. It let out a furious roar, and a purple light burst out from its body. It madly waved its 8 limbs and 2 pairs of wings, knocking away the thousands of sword lights around it. Thousands of sword lights shattered into tiny pieces, spreading out in all directions along with a series of rustling noises. The nether-suppressing soul beast rushed out covered in blood. It opened its 2 bloody mouths and roared furiously. However, before it could see Ji Tianxing's figure, it was struck by the purple lightning that descended from the sky. Just now, Ji Tianxing had used a secret technique to control the power of the divine lightning sword domain and condensed 12 pillars of divine lightning. Every beam of light was thousands of meters long, completely dazzling purple, and contained a violent power that could destroy the world. Boom! 12 purple lightning bolts struck down from the sky at the same time, and immediately drowned the nether-suppressing soul beast. The flashing lightning arcs wrapped around it and fiercely bombarded it. Its body was charred black and smoking, and dozens of hideous bloody holes appeared. The dozens of wounds on its body were also charred black, and its injuries were even worse. The heart-wrenching pain made it roar at the sky, letting out a roar of grief and indignation. Ah! Ji Tianxing, you bastard, you deserve to die 10,000 times. As it roared, it unleashed a secret technique to block the thunderbolts. Swoosh! A dazzling purple light surged out of its body, covering its body and dispersing the lightning around it. After a while, the lightning in the sky dissipated. The nether-suppressing soul beast was covered in a layer of lightning arcs. It rushed out aggressively and pounced at Ji Tianxing without caring about anything. Although its injuries looked terrible, and its body was covered in charred bloody holes and wounds, and dark red demon blood was constantly gushing out. But its vitality was abnormally strong, and such injuries would not affect its movements and fighting. Its primordial spirit was not injured, and it was still full of energy. Little bastard, go to hell. In the blink of an eye, the nether-suppressing soul beast rushed in front of Ji Tianxing, waving its 2 pairs of black wings and several giant claws, and attacked fiercely. Ji Tianxing realized that the suppressive power of the divine lightning sword domain could not weaken its power. Its charging speed was still as fast as lightning, and as fast as a flash of light. Swoosh! At the critical moment, he used the power of the domain to teleport 20 miles away, dodging the nether-suppressing soul beast's attack. The nether-suppressing soul beast seemed to have expected this result. It immediately released 17 ancient and mysterious demon seals, and suppressed him across the sky. Nether-suppressing soul art. The nether-suppressing soul beast used a demonic secret technique to control the 17 purple and blood-red seals, and suppressed them from the sky. The seals suppressed Ji Tianxing one after another, enveloping a 5-mile radius around him. Ji Tianxing immediately sensed the terrifying suppressive power. It was as heavy as a 100,000-foot mountain, or as if the sky was collapsing. He was suppressed by the invisible force, and could not move an inch. His body bent over, and his face turned pale. His bones emitted crisp cracking sounds. There was an invisible connection between the 17 seals, and their power was constantly increasing and stacking, becoming stronger and stronger. Even if Ji Tianxing could withstand the first few seals, the power of the remaining 10 seals kept increasing, and he could not withstand them at all. Fortunately, he cultivated the galaxy body-tempering art, and his body was extremely strong. That was why he could barely withstand the nether-suppressing soul art. If it were an ordinary 1st or 2nd level primordial spirit realm expert, their body would have been crushed by the suppressive power. Of course, the nether-suppressing soul beast's ultimate move was not mainly used to suppress the body, but to suppress the soul. When the 12th seal came down, Ji Tianxing could no longer withstand it. The divine soul golden sword in his mind suffered a heavy blow. It was struck by an invisible force, and it shook violently. Phut! When he opened his mouth, he spat out a mouthful of hot blood. His vision became blurry, and he felt dizzy. Immediately after, the 13th seal came down. His divine soul golden sword shook again, and a crack appeared. Phut! He spat out another mouthful of blood, and his injuries were even worse. The 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th seals were still coming down, and their power was constantly increasing. Ji Tianxing's soul was severely injured, and he was about to be killed on the spot. Once the divine soul golden sword shattered, his soul would be destroyed, and he would be completely dead. Seeing this, the nether-suppressing soul beast laughed complacently, and its eyes turned ferocious and bloodthirsty. Ji Tianxing was filled with grief and indignation, but there was nothing he could do. He could only activate the heaven-mending pearl in his mind to release a mysterious white light to protect the divine soul golden sword. Chapter 1399. The sacred white light released by the heaven-mending orb protected the divine soul golden swords. The 14th seal came down, and the invisible soul-suppressing power hit the divine soul golden swords. However, the invisible power was dissolved by the sacred white light. Soon, the 15th seal came crashing down. At this time, the divine lightning sword domain of 80 miles in radius suddenly shrank. The dark golden light shield that covered the sky condensed into 36 giant dark golden swords. Each of the swords was thousands of meters long, and they looked solid. Dark purple lightning was flowing in the blades of the swords, and dense electric arcs were coiling around them. The lightning that filled the dark golden light shield also condensed into 18,000 of feet tall lightning pillars. Kill! As Ji Tianxing roared to the sky, the 36 giant dark golden swords and 18 lightning pillars all bloomed with the most dazzling light and shot toward the netherworld soul-suppressing beast. The netherworld soul-suppressing beast couldn't dodge at all. It was instantly hit by the giant golden swords and was drowned by the lightning pillars. Bang 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 bang! Kaboom! Earth-shattering noise and deafening thunder exploded in the night sky, spreading for thousands of miles. At that moment, the entire sky above the demon camp became a world of golden light and lightning. The night sky was illuminated brilliantly, and half of the sky was as bright as day. Such earth-shattering power frightened and shocked the tens of millions of soldiers on the ground. They all looked up at the sky. The divine lightning sword domain disappeared. The 9 blazing white divine soul swords quickly flew back into Ji Tianqing's body and entered his mind. He retreated dozens of miles and stood in the dark night sky, looking at the area where the golden light and lightning mixed, waiting for the result. Although this was the strongest power of the divine lightning sword domain, powerful enough to destroy heaven and earth, he didn't dare to hope that this move could kill the netherworld soul-suppressing beast. He only hoped that, after paying such a huge price, he could seriously injure the netherworld soul-suppressing beast and temporarily incapacitate it. That would be enough. After a long time, the loud noise that echoed in the night sky dissipated. The golden light and lightning that illuminated the sky also gradually dimmed, quickly collapsing and dissipating. The nether-suppressing soul beast finally appeared. Its body was curled up as it floated in the night sky. Its body was trembling non-stop as black ashes and purple blood scattered everywhere. Ji Tianqing took a closer look and saw that its 2 pairs of black wings were already broken and full of holes. Its mountain-like body was covered in cracks and holes, revealing its bones and internal organs. Dark purple blood gushed out from the wounds and holes, pouring onto the ground below like a tide. As for its 8 limbs, 3 of them had been shattered. The remaining 5 legs were also riddled with scars. The nether suppressor soul beast's injuries were extremely miserable. However, it was still a primordial soul realm supreme being after all. As long as its primordial soul was not destroyed, it would never die. With Ji Tianqing's strength, he was unable to severely injure its primordial spirit. Its primordial spirit was still brimming with energy and maintained 60 to 70% of its combat strength. He silently cast a spell, and a dazzling purple light appeared all over his body. After flashing for a while, his injuries were suppressed. Blood no longer flowed out of those hideous wounds. The charred flesh around the wounds no longer rotted into black ashes and his injuries no longer worsened. When he saw that, Ji Tianqing frowned and his gaze turned even more solemn. That damned nether suppressor soul beast. It's an essence spirit after all. It's too difficult to deal with. It's useless even if I destroy its physical body. As long as its primordial spirit still exists, it still possesses powerful combat strength. If I continue fighting with it, I won't be able to kill it even if I exhaust all my dharmic powers. On the other hand, the commanders and soldiers of the human race will definitely be killed by the fiend. At the thought of that, he was furious and helpless. He no longer had the will to fight. He had to face reality. The gap between the spirit refinement realm and the essence spirit realm was simply too great. It was like an insurmountable chasm. At the same time, the nether suppressor soul beast that was 50 kilometers away from him stared at him coldly and thought of retreating. Although it was very powerful and had mastered many powerful secret techniques, it was still very powerful. However, after fighting with Ji Tianqing for so long, it did not manage to gain much of an advantage. Instead, it ended up in such a wretched state. Ji Tianqing's strength and methods had already made it deeply wary. It could not be sure if Ji Tianqing had any more ultimate moves that he had yet to use or even more powerful ultimate skills. It did not dare to take the risk and could only suppress its anger and killing intent as it retreated silently. After all, its physical body was severely injured. If Ji Tianqing had any more ultimate moves or if an emperor arrived to help and completely destroyed its physical body, it would be in big trouble. 1,000 years ago, its physical body was destroyed in a huge battle and only a trace of its essence spirit was left. That was how it managed to survive. For nearly 1,000 years, it had been sleeping in the blood river at the foot of the sacred mountain. After 1,000 years of recuperation, it finally reformed its physical body and recovered to its peak strength. After tasting the feeling of being in seclusion for 1,000 years and only being able to recuperate, it did not want to experience it a second time. Therefore, it chose to temporarily retreat. Its figure gradually faded into the darkness as it quietly retreated to the depths of the earth. In any case, the demon emperor had given it a mission before leaving, which was to protect the primogenitor altar. Ji Tianqing had also been injured by it and would definitely not dare to invade the primogenitor altar again. And the truth was just as it had expected. After it retreated, Ji Tianqing secretly let out a sigh of relief and hurriedly turned to leave. He knew very well that if he continued to fight with the nether-suppressing soul beast, he would be the one to suffer in the end. Being able to force the nether-suppressing soul beast to retreat was already extremely fortunate. Whoosh! He flew through the night sky as fast as lightning toward the sky in front of him. He wanted to rush to the Imperial Tutor and the other commanders. At this time, a faint trace of light appeared on the horizon. The night was about to pass and dawn had finally arrived. Ji Tianxing looked down at the battlefield from high up in the sky and quickly saw the situation. The number of the demon race army had already reached 10 million. It was like a black sea that covered the mountains and plains. Moreover, the more the demon race army fought, the braver they became. Their morale was high and their battle cries shook the sky. At the front of the demon race army, charging in front of the demon race army, was an endless stream of white skeletons. There were as many as 1 million of them. And the number of the human race army had been sharply reduced from 6 million to 3 million. Nearly half of the human race army had lost their lives in this battle. On the battlefield with a radius of 1,000 miles, there were rivers of blood and mountains of corpses everywhere. It was extremely tragic. The human race army was beaten back by the demon race army. They had no strength to resist and could only blow the horn of retreat, retreating in panic toward Heaven Dragon Pass. Seeing the human race army retreat in defeat, the demon race's morale was even higher. They took the opportunity to pursue and continue to reap the lives of the human race army. Unfortunately, the Imperial Preceptor and the human commanders were all besieged by the devil race powerhouses. Chapter 1400. Ji Tianxing looked up at the sky and saw that the Emperor and the two supremacies were in the midst of a fierce battle. The battle formation formed by hundreds of thousands of demons was also releasing powerful attacks towards the Emperor in the sky. The dozens of blood-colored eyeballs in the clouds were still releasing dense blood-red light pillars, attacking the Imperial Emperor. The Emperor was in a very dangerous situation. Ji Tianxing made a prompt decision to use the divine concealment step and quietly rushed to the mountain peak in front of him on the left. If he wanted to help the Emperor escape, the first thing he had to deal with was the 500,000 demons around the mountain peak. Swoosh! After a few breaths, he flew to the sky above the pitch-black mountain peak and looked down at the battle formation below. A dark red light shield with a radius of 100 miles enveloped the entire mountain peak and protected the 500,000 demons. Ji Tianxing observed for a moment and hid in a hidden corner. He used a secret technique to break a crack in the dark red light shield. Then, he passed through the crack and entered the dark red light shield. He took out the Heavenly Dipper Godfire cauldron in his mind. Back then, I refined this divine cauldron to deal with the demon army. Now, it can finally be put to use, he whispered to himself. His left hand held the bronze cauldron surrounded by 9 dragons. His right hand's index and middle fingers were pressed together. He formed a mysterious seal to control the power of the divine cauldron. Attract the Heavenly Dipper, pour out the earth fire, burn all things, kill gods and demons. He muttered as his right hand struck out streaks of dazzling light, displaying a mysterious seal. Under his control, the 3-foot-tall bronze cauldron immediately flew into the dark night sky and expanded to the size of a palace. The simple and unadorned bronze cauldron bloomed with dazzling silver-white light and dark red flames, illuminating the surrounding 100 miles in a dazzling light. The hundreds of thousands of demons around the mountain peak were casting spells with all their might, accumulating powerful magic attacks through the battle formation. The sudden appearance of the huge divine cauldron stunned everyone. They all looked up at the Heavenly Dipper Godfire cauldron with surprised and puzzled expressions. At this moment, the huge divine cauldron slowly turned upside down. The mouth of the cauldron poured out dark red flames and endless silver-white brilliance towards the mountain peak below. Swish! Swish! The dark red flames were like a torrential flood, pouring down from the sky and immediately enveloping an area of 100 miles. The pitch-black mountain peak was enveloped by the crimson flames and was immediately melted into crimson lava that flowed in all directions. Innumerable demon soldiers were engulfed in flames, and in the blink of an eye, they were reduced to black ash, not even their bones remaining. This was the power of the Earth Core Divine Fire, enough to melt everything. In just 10 breaths of time, the mountain had completely disappeared, turning into an endless torrent of lava that flowed wantonly on the ground. More than half of the Devil Race army of 500,000 was quickly annihilated. The remaining half of the demon warriors screamed and roared in panic. Many Sky Origin stage cultivators joined hands to perform their secret techniques, trying to resist the Earth Core divine fire. However, the silver-white brilliance that descended from the sky was the raging heavenly astral divine wind. It immediately turned into hundreds of hurricanes that were thousands of feet tall and swept across a radius of 100 miles. The power of the heavenly astral divine wind was terrifying to begin with. It could instantly blow apart the physical body of a Sky Origin stage cultivator, crushing them into fine powder. The Earth Core divine fire was further boosted by the heavenly astral divine wind. The flames became even more violent and ferocious, surging up like raging waves. The area within a radius of 100 miles immediately became a world of heavenly wind and flowing fire, incomparably chaotic. Those demon experts and powerhouses could no longer resist the power of the heavenly wind and flowing fire, and were quickly burned to ashes. In a short 20 breaths of time, the shouts, roars, and screams in the sea of fire disappeared, and gradually quieted down. Previously, the sea of fire was still crowded with people, flickering figures, but now, not a single figure could be seen. Just like that, the 500,000 demon warriors were annihilated by the heavenly wind and flowing fire. Ji Tianxing hurriedly performed a technique, controlling the heavenly astral divine fire cauldron, and withdrew the heavenly wind and flowing fire that blotted out the sky and covered the earth into the cauldron. In the blink of an eye, the shocking hurricanes and torrential sea of fire were swallowed up by the heavenly astral divine fire cauldron. Swish! The divine cauldron rapidly shrank to 3 feet tall and flew back to Ji Tianxing. Holding the divine cauldron in his left hand, he looked down at the 50 miles of land beneath his feet and saw that this area had already become a lava lake. Regardless of whether it was the mountains or the ground, as long as they were swept by the lava torrent, they would melt into dark red lava and eventually converge into a large lake. As for the 500,000 demon warriors, they were already dead. Ji Tianxing was very satisfied with the power of the heavenly astral divine fire cauldron. A gratified look flashed across his eyes as he hurriedly turned and left. With the battle formation of the 500,000 demon army broken, the pressure on the Imperial Emperor was greatly reduced. He fought with the two supremacies while blocking the attacks of the blood-colored eyeball. Soon, he turned the situation around and seized the initiative. The two supremacies sensed that something was wrong and hurriedly increased their pace of attack. They used all their secret techniques to tie down the Imperial Emperor and prevent him from escaping. Right at this moment, Ji Tianxing arrived near the battlefield and launched a sneak attack without making a sound. He used the divine concealment step to quietly approach Supremacy Bloodbath and brazenly launched an attack 5 miles behind him. Piercing sword. The sword of burial of heaven suddenly stabbed out with unparalleled power. A cold light suddenly appeared and quickly disappeared into the night sky. Just as Supremacy Bloodbath realized that something was amiss, he immediately transformed his 1,000-foot-tall giant body into a sanguine light to block the attack. However, before he could complete the transformation, the cold light pierced into his body and exploded. Boom! Amidst a deafening explosion, a dazzling white sword light mixed with purple lightning arcs exploded within Supremacy Bloodbath's body. A gigantic mushroom cloud rose into the night sky and swept across a radius of dozens of miles. The night sky for hundreds of miles was illuminated by the dazzling light. A violent and devastating shockwave immediately spread out and swept across the sky. Supremacy Bloodbath's huge body was also blown to pieces, turning into thousands of bloody shards that splashed into the night sky. The sudden turn of events gave Supremacy Demon Blood a fright. His expression changed abruptly as he revealed a ferocious look. The Imperial Emperor was also taken aback as he turned to look at Ji Tianxing. The corners of his mouth curled into a gratified smile. Supremacy Bloodbath's strength is only equivalent to a third firmament essence spirit. Even if my strike can't kill him, it will definitely severely injure him. Ji Tianxing looked at the mushroom cloud with a burning gaze as such a thought flashed through his mind. He was filled with anticipation. Moments later, the mushroom cloud that blotted out the sky dissipated. The bloody light shards that blotted out the sky rapidly gathered together. After a series of surges, they condensed into a ferocious demonic beast that was 10,000 feet tall. It roared a few times at the sky and lowered its massive head. It stared at Ji Tianxing with a ferocious look and sneered. Chapter 1401. This scene made Ji Tianxing frown deeply. His expression was a little gloomy. Damn it. I clearly infused 50% of the divine lightning's power into that sword technique, but I still couldn't injure Venerable Bloodkiller. This shouldn't be. The ninth heaven divine lightning should be able to restrain the blood god. Ji Tianxing muttered to himself. He was very shocked and puzzled. Before this, he had always thought that he could completely restrain the blood god after controlling the ninth heaven divine lightning and cultivating the divine lightning sword domain. However, that wasn't the case. After Venerable Bloodkiller's body was shattered, he was able to reform his body unscathed. His strength didn't weaken at all. This was completely beyond his imagination. However, he was only stunned for a moment before he quickly disappeared into the night sky. He continued to lurk in the dark, looking for an opportunity to assassinate Venerable Bloodkiller. Venerable Bloodkiller and Venerable Demon Blood both pounced towards him, wanting to attack him together. However, he was already invisible. The Celestial Emperor also waved his divine sword and slashed out dozens of divine lights. He was unstoppable. The two venerables could only give up on attacking Ji Tianxing and focus on defending against the Celestial Emperor's attack. Not long after, Ji Tianxing found another opportunity and quietly approached Venerable Demon Blood. Venerable Demon Blood was using a secret technique to attack the Celestial Emperor with all his strength. Ji Tianxing lurked a few thousand feet behind him and took the opportunity to launch an attack. Heaven-cleaving sword. This was the fourth sword of the burial of Heaven's 9 swords. It was unparalleled and unstoppable. He used 100% of his strength and infused the extremely violent power of the divine lightning into it. It condensed into a huge sword light that was a few thousand feet long and slashed towards Venerable Demon Blood. The huge sword, which was a mixture of white and purple light, instantly tore through the night sky and struck Venerable Demon Blood. Even though Venerable Demon Blood was already prepared, it was useless. Kaboom! With a deafening explosion, his giant body was sliced into pieces by the huge sword. The destructive sword light and thunder light blasted its broken body into thousands of pieces and splashed in all directions. In order to prevent the fragments from reforming, Ji Tianxing brandished the burial of Heaven's sword and slashed out a dozen purple lightning bolts. Boom, 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 boom. Dozens of huge thunderbolts exploded in the night sky, lighting up half of the sky with dazzling lightning. The blood-red fragments that filled the night sky were smashed into fine powder by the lightning and scattered in the night sky. He should be dead this time, right? Ji Tianxing withdrew the sword of burial of heaven, frowned as he stared at the dust that filled the sky, and muttered in a low voice. However, a scene that made him both shocked and helpless appeared. An endless amount of dark red powder blossomed with a dazzling bloody light, forming a gigantic image of a demon in the night sky. Swish, swish. The bloody light that blotted out the sky kept flashing. In the blink of an eye, it condensed into a 1,000-foot-tall demon. The evil demon's body was dark red, and it was surrounded by black gas and bloody light. There were also numerous ancient symbols flickering on its body. Its appearance was terrifying, and its aura was also very powerful. Its strength had not decreased at all. Without a doubt, Ji Tianxing's heaven-cleaving sword did not cause any substantial damage to it. Such a scene made Ji Tianxing's expression turn even uglier. He only felt that it was unbelievable. How can this be? The 9 heavens' divine thunder is a divine power of extreme yang. It can't restrain the blood gods. Could it be that the blood gods that have reached the essence soul realm are no longer afraid of the 9 heavens' divine thunder? It seems that I can only kill these 2 essence soul realm blood gods by using the power of the heaven mending pearl. Ji Tianxing thought silently as these thoughts flashed through his mind. Supremacy Demon Blood, who had recondensed his body, rushed over angrily, releasing an overwhelming bloody light and poisonous black gas that swept towards him. He hurriedly used the divine concealment step and disappeared into the night, quickly dodging. The Imperial Lord also teleported over and waved a golden divine sword. He used a secret technique to disperse the bloody light and poisonous black gas that filled the sky. Ji Tianqing hid in the dark and watched the changes in the battle. While the two supremacies were fighting with the Imperial Lord, he seized the opportunity to slash at Supremacy Demon Blood. Cold Sea. He swung the sword of Burial of Heaven with all his strength and slashed out a huge sword beam that was thousands of feet long, sweeping towards Supremacy Demon Blood. The sword beam contained powerful divine soul power and dazzling purple divine thunder. Its power was extraordinary. Bam! Supremacy Demon Blood couldn't dodge in time and was slashed by the sword beam. The 1,000-foot-tall demon's body was cut in half. Ji Tianqing immediately teleported over and waved his left hand to release a sacred white light, blasting towards half of its body. As long as the sacred white light released by the heaven-mending pearl hit half of Supremacy Demon Blood's body, it would definitely be purified. However, Supremacy Demon Blood was already vigilant and on guard. Before the sacred white light could reach it, the two halves of its body quickly merged together and turned into a blood-red ball of light that disappeared into the night sky. In the next moment, when the blood-red ball of light appeared again, it had already escaped 25 miles away. Ji Tianqing was about to chase after it when more than 30 blood-red eyeballs in the sky released dozens of blood-red light beams that shot down from the clouds. Bam! 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 His body was immediately drowned by the blood-red light beams. He was blasted down from the sky by the blood-red light beams and smashed into the ground below. Boom! The incomparably violent impact blasted him into a shattered mountain peak. The 1,000-meter-tall mountain was instantly blasted into pieces and completely turned into ruins. He was also blasted into the depths of the ruins, creating a 1,000-foot-deep pit in the ruins. He lay at the bottom of the pit in a sorry state. When the blood-red light dissipated, he crawled out of the deep pit and staggered back into the sky. He looked a little disheveled. His whole body was covered in dust, and his face was covered in dust. Although his physical body was strong enough to block the blood-red light beams, he was still slightly injured. His divine soul was also shaken to the point that his consciousness was blurred and his head was dizzy. He was full of unwillingness and wanted to return to the sky to continue chasing after the two supremacies. At this moment, the Emperor transmitted his voice to him. Tianqing, there's no need to help this Emperor. Quickly go and help the commanders and our army. Cover their retreat. We've already lost. No matter what, we have to retreat to Heaven Dragon Pass as soon as possible and minimize our losses as much as possible. Ji Tianqing was startled and looked up at the sky. The Emperor was looking at him anxiously with a grave expression. He didn't answer and just nodded silently. He immediately turned and flew toward the Imperial Tutor and the commanders. In the sky above the battlefield 100 miles away, the Imperial Tutor and the 7 commanders were besieged by more than a dozen demon powerhouses. The commanders were riddled with wounds and covered in blood. They looked like arrows at the end of their flight as they were beaten back by the demon powerhouses. Even the sage-like Emperor's preceptor had a disheveled appearance. His pure white robe was stained with large amounts of blood. Chapter 1402. The Imperial Tutor and the 7 human commanders couldn't even protect themselves, let alone cover the retreat of the human army. The doppelgangers of the blood god were still releasing all kinds of poisonous plagues and black gas of death onto the battlefield below. Hundreds of thousands of people in the human army who were retreating in panic were shrouded by the black gas and poisonous fog. Soon, they were corroded into bones and blood. In addition, the doppelgangers of the blood god also used the power of 9 tribulations to release the earthquake tribulation, flood tribulation, and flowing fire tribulation. A huge earthquake occurred on the battlefield within a radius of several hundred miles. Mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The sky collapsed and the earth caved in. Endless floodwaters gushed out from the ground, rolling up raging waves and drowning countless human armies. In the sky, wisps of flames also drifted, forming into balls of violent fireballs that blasted towards the human army below. Loud rumbling sounds rang out incessantly. The earth-shattering power was as if the end of the world had arrived. Every second, thousands of human soldiers were killed. None of their corpses were intact. If things went on like this, by the time the 3 million-plus human army returned to the Heaven Dragon Pass, they would have long been wiped out. Seeing that the situation was so critical, Ji Tianqing rushed towards the devil race experts without hesitation. He used the stealth step and approached a doppelganger of the blood god. He attacked from a distance of 10,000 feet behind him. Draw your sword. Holding the sword of burial of heaven in his right hand, he suddenly unsheathed it. A huge purple sword light that was 10 feet long instantly crossed the sky and slashed the doppelganger of the blood god. The doppelganger of the blood god didn't even have time to react or dodge before it was smashed into pieces by the sword light of thunder. Bang! Its enormous body was shattered into tens of thousands of bloody light shards, which were surrounded by dense thunderbolts. Along with a series of crackling thunderclaps, countless blood-red light fragments were destroyed by the violent thunderclaps and dissipated on the spot. This doppelganger of the blood god of the LV5 soul refining realm was killed by Ji Tianqing in one strike. It was completely obliterated. Although the power of the nine heavens divine thunder wasn't enough to severely injure the blood god, who was at the primordial soul realm, the nine heavens divine thunder wasn't enough to severely injure the blood god. However, against a blood god at the soul refining realm, the nine heavens lightning was absolutely invincible. The sudden change made the other blood god's sons and demon commanders turn pale with fright, and they all looked terrified. They hurriedly looked around and released their soul power, searching for Ji Tianqing's figure. However, Ji Tianqing used God concealment step and silently rushed to the side of another blood god's son. Swish! Another sword thrust out, and a dot of cold light suddenly appeared, then quickly disappeared. In the next moment, a cold light blossomed inside the blood god's body, and an earth-shattering sound erupted. Boom! Dazzling cold light, accompanied by dazzling purple lightning, rose in the night sky and turned into a huge mushroom cloud. Coincidentally, the mushroom cloud covered an area of 5 kilometers, including the two blood gods' illusions. The terrifying sword light and the violent lightning instantly blasted the two blood gods' illusions into pieces. When the sword light and lightning dissipated, the two blood gods' sons were completely obliterated. Ji Tianqing's figure disappeared again, and he began to assassinate the other blood gods' sons. This scene made Demon Commander Dark Knight and the others very frightened. They didn't dare to attack the Imperial Tutor and the others with full strength. They were all vigilant and on guard. The pressure on the Imperial Tutor and the other human commanders was greatly reduced, and they all secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Although they didn't see Ji Tianqing's figure, they knew that someone had come. However, they knew that an expert had come to help, and that person was definitely Ji Tianqing. In the human camp, only Ji Tianqing had the power of the divine lightning and could instantly kill a blood god's son with one strike. In just a few seconds, Ji Tianqing found another opportunity to launch a fatal attack. Without a doubt, another blood god's son had died under the burial of heaven's sword and was obliterated on the spot. The demon commanders and blood god's sons became more and more frightened. They gradually tightened the encirclement and joined forces to guard the surroundings. Demon Commander Dark Knight roared in anger. He controlled a huge black ghost banner and used a powerful secret technique. He summoned thousands of demons and ghosts and sealed off the sky for dozens of miles. He swore to drag Ji Tianqing out. However, with the strength of the demon commanders and blood god's sons, they couldn't see through Ji Tianqing's divine concealment step. In the next few seconds, Ji Tianqing attacked 4 times in a row. With just 4 strikes, he killed 4 blood god's sons. With the soul refinement realm blood god's sons killed, the remaining demon commanders and soul refinement realm experts were all scared out of their wits and their souls trembled. When Ji Tianqing attacked for the 5th time, another demon commander was killed on the spot. The number of demon race powerhouses continued to decrease. Demon Commander Dark Knight and the others already had the intention to retreat. They turned around and fled into the distance. The morale of the Imperial Tutor and the human race commanders was greatly boosted. They were all very grateful to Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was about to chase after Demon Commander Dark Knight and the others when the Imperial Tutor hurriedly shouted, "Tianqing, don't chase after them. It's more important to cover our retreat." Ji Tianqing quickly looked at the battlefield below and saw millions of undead skeletons and tens of millions of demon race troops frantically chasing after the human race army. During this period of time, Another 200,000 human soldiers died on the battlefield. The number of the human race army was reduced to only about 3 million. Therefore, he gave up chasing after Demon Commander Dark Knight and the others and quickly rushed to the battlefield below. Swish! In a few breaths, he flew above the demon race army. Looking at the undead skeleton's army charging at the forefront, he did not hesitate to summon the celestial godfire cauldron. His hands formed an incantation gesture, manipulating the divine cauldron to launch an attack. Attract the celestial dipper, pour out the earth fire, burn all things, kill gods, and exterminate demons. Under his control, the celestial godfire cauldron flew to the sky and violently expanded to the size of a palace, bursting out a silver-white brilliance and dark red flames that soared into the sky. The huge divine cauldron slowly tilted, and dark red flames that blotted out the sky and covered the earth gushed out from the mouth of the cauldron, pouring down on the battlefield below like a monstrous flood. Boom! The endless earth fire drowned hundreds of thousands of undead skeletons and immediately spread out, turning into a vast sea of fire. Immediately, those undead skeletons who were not afraid of death and bravely charging forward were burned to ashes by the violent red flames. The dark brown mountains and earth were also melted by the earth fire into red magma that flowed between the mountains and rivers. In just a few breaths, more than half of the million undead skeletons were killed. The demon race army, which followed closely behind the undead skeletons, was immediately blocked by the raging sea of fire and had to take a detour or retreat to avoid it. Ji Tianxing manipulated the divine cauldron to release the silver-white celestial dipper wind, blowing it toward the sea of fire below. With the help of the wind, the fire spread out violently and rapidly, turning a radius of 200 miles into a world of fire and magma. Chapter 1403. For a time, flames soared into the sky and lava flowed across the battlefield. The whistling of the heavenly astral divine wind, the muffled sounds of the lava melting the earth, and the wails and screams of countless demon soldiers reverberated in the night sky. The demon army's offensive was temporarily blocked, and they had to think of another way. Many demon experts formed a battle formation and joined forces to cast powerful spells, bombarding Ji Tianxing. Many demon generals led elite soldiers to quickly bypass the lava area and continue to pursue the human army. There were even some powerful demon kings who flew across the sky in groups, crossing the lava area. In short, the battlefield was a mess, and the demons' momentum was thwarted. And this situation was caused by Ji Tianxing alone. However, the heavenly astral divine wind and flowing fire released by the divine cauldron could only obstruct the demon army, temporarily stopping the army's charge. The demon army's numbers were simply too great, as many as 10 million. After a short 20 breaths, the millions of demon army joined forces to cast spells, destroying the lava sea within a radius of 200 miles. The flames that illuminated the sky gradually extinguished, and the lava sea quickly cooled down, turning into scorched ruins emitting black smoke. The spirit masters hiding in the army cast spells to summon hundreds of thousands of undead skeletons, taking the lead to step over the high-temperature ruins to pursue the human army. Countless demon army followed closely behind, charging forward without regard for their own safety. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing immediately frowned, and his expression became somewhat unsightly. Damn it, no matter how powerful the heavenly astral divine fire cauldron is, it can't deal with an army of 10 million. With my strength alone, it's almost impossible to intercept the demon army, and even more impossible to cover the retreat of the human army to Heaven Dragon Pass. With a heavy heart, he considered how to cover the retreat of the human army. At this moment, dozens of blood-red and purple flames suddenly lit up in the sky, as well as huge saber, spear, and sword shadows. Dozens of powerful spell attacks came from all directions, immediately drowning his figure. Those were the spells released by thousands of demon experts using a battle formation, just to kill him on the spot. He hurriedly spread out his golden wings to protect himself. Bam bam bam! The overwhelming spell attacks bombarded him one after another, causing deafening explosions. He was blasted down from the sky and smashed into the ruins below, creating a huge crater in the scorched earth. Although he only suffered some internal injuries, the power of the golden wings had been exhausted. They retracted back into his body and could no longer be used. In his fury, He rushed out of the deep pit in a flash and flew into the sky. He used all his strength to perform a lost skill. Meteor shower. His entire body lit up with flames that soared into the sky, releasing a tyrannical and valiant aura. His robes fluttered violently. As he waved his palms and cast a mysterious spell, flames suddenly appeared in the gloomy sky. Dark red flames lit up the sky like the red clouds when the sun rose. Countless people had the misconception that the sun had risen early, and they all looked up at the sky. In the next moment, huge fireballs that blotted out the sky and covered the earth poured down like a torrential downpour, bombarding the huge battlefield. Boom, 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 boom. Countless fireballs landed in the midst of the devil race army and exploded with loud noises that shook the 9 heavens. The shattered flames spread in all directions and turned into a boundless sea of fire, drowning hundreds of thousands of demon army soldiers. At least hundreds of thousands of demon army soldiers were directly hit by the fireballs and burned to ashes on the spot. Millions of demon army soldiers were also drowned by the sea of fire in a radius of 50 kilometers. They suffered heavy casualties and let out heart-wrenching screams and howls. However, the wildly spreading sea of fire was quickly extinguished by the combined efforts of the demon army when it only covered a radius of 50 kilometers. Thousands of demon army experts used a combined battle formation to release powerful spells and sent Ji Tianqing flying again, landing on the battlefield dozens of kilometers away. Bam, bam, bam. This time, he did not have the golden wings to protect him. After being hit by hundreds of spells, he immediately suffered heavy injuries and staggered a little. He hurriedly used the spirit concealment step and hid in the sky. He secretly took out a pill and consumed it, circulating his energy to suppress his injuries. The demon army launched another attack and seized the opportunity to launch a pincer attack on the human army. Seeing batches of human army soldiers being slaughtered one after another and their corpses lying in pools of blood, Ji Tianqing was so furious that his eyes almost popped out. Fortunately, the imperial tutor and several commanders arrived in time. Everyone struggled to support their seriously injured bodies and unleashed their secret arts to attack the demon army and block the momentum of the demon army. Under the cover of the commanders, the human army retreated in a panic and gradually withdrew from the demon army camp area. As long as the army crossed the 200 kilometers deep valley, they could withdraw to the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass. However, that distance of 200 miles was an incomparably bitter road to hell. Every step had to be filled with lives. No one knew if the 3 million human army could withdraw to the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass. Demon Commander Dark Knight led several demon commanders and a large number of demon army experts to pursue and entangle the imperial tutor and the others. Their purpose was very obvious. They did not seek to kill the imperial tutor and the others, but only to delay them. In this way, it was impossible for the human army to withdraw to the Heaven Dragon Mountain Pass smoothly. They were bound to be slaughtered by the demon army. Dawn had already passed, and the white of the sky appeared with a touch of red clouds. The long night was about to pass, and a new day was about to arrive. However, the situation on the battlefield was getting more and more critical. The majority of the human army soldiers might not be able to see the sun tomorrow. The imperial tutor and the commanders witnessed with their own eyes the massacre of countless human army soldiers. Their corpses were lying in a pool of blood and mud, and they were extremely indignant. The Yi Prince and the filial prince were already riddled with scars and bloodstains. However, the two of them roared angrily and rushed out of the crowd, charging at Demon Commander Dark Knight and the others without any regard for their own safety, recklessly using their unique skills. Demon Commander Dark Knight and the others were startled for a moment before immediately launching a counterattack. The two of them were beaten back again and again, seriously injured and vomiting blood. However, the two of them still rushed forward without hesitation, firmly entangling Demon Commander Dark Knight and the others. Seeing this scene, the Imperial Tutor and the several human commanders were full of worry and puzzlement. "Princes, what are you doing? Don't be impulsive. Come back quickly, don't make unnecessary sacrifices. Only by joining hands can we have a chance to retreat to Heaven Dragon Pass." The Imperial Tutor and the commanders all tried to persuade the two princes. However, the two of them did not care, as if they were determined to die. No matter what, they had to entangle the demon commanders. Bang! Following a dull explosion, Demon Commander Dark Knight's fist struck the Yi Prince, sending him flying back. Blood splashed out from his body, filling the sky. The Divine General of the West Wilderness hurriedly went forward to catch him, wanting to take him away. However, the Yi Prince broke free from the Divine General of the West Wilderness's grasp. His face covered in blood, he looked at the crowd and shouted in a low voice, "You all quickly cover the army and retreat to Heaven Dragon Pass. We will bring up the rear." At that time, it was us who suggested to the Emperor that we should take the initiative to attacking the demon army's camp in the middle of the night. It was us who were eager for quick success and lost our heads in a momentary victory. That was why we made such a ridiculous suggestion and made such a big mistake. The Yi Prince was drenched in blood from head to toe. His messy hair and blood-soaked robes fluttered in the wind. His expression was bleak, and he said in a sorrowful tone, "Now, more than half of the 6 million troops of my race have been killed or injured. Even if we retreat to Heaven Dragon Pass, we will not be able to defend this barrier. My race's momentum is gone, and we are the main culprits. Even if we die 10,000 times, it will still be difficult to atone for our sins.